I'm going to think about it myself. You think about it too, okay? That's my point. Right, and this is the show. This is the National Pulse. Welcome to the show. As always, 3 hours of so much to reflect on, I can tell you now. There's also been talk about Rise Mzansi, the Good Party, and Build One South Africa coming together to contest the next local government election. But that's not all. There are other issues. We now know that the election's set to be between November 2026 and January 2027. And that is also not all. There's more. There's latest developments that we need to focus on. And there's an award-winning story from SA Harvest too, right? But let's get to the crime story. There's the latest crime stats that we need to talk about. And as always, it reflects the reality of the South Africa we live in, right? So let's get it from Risenga Maluleke, the Statistician General and Head of Stats SA. As always, appreciate your time here on the National Pulse.
Let me greet you, Ashram, and greet the SAFM listeners indeed.
Much appreciate your time, right? Okay, so I understand. Let's go through this. For me, the headline act of the latest crime stats survey, talks about housebreaking being the number one, touch point between South Africans' experience with crime more than any other crime. Tell me more about that.
Let us start by the fact that the crime statistics of victims of crime that we release is a complementary work to the work that is done by SAPS. So let us look at this way. People go to the police stations and report crime, and South African police services pick up such data as administrative data. So it's only they will report what has been reported to them. Whereas with us at Stats SA, we go to the households and talk to them to talk about crimes that may not necessarily have been reported to the police. So we look at it on two forms. One, we look at what we call household experiences. Things like housebreaking and home robbery. Housebreaking is when there's nobody and there's a burglary, whereas home robbery is when somebody is at home or at least one person. Mm-hmm. One thing to contrast is the theft of motor vehicle, which may be stolen at a household level or at a secure parking, as opposed to hijacking, which can happen anywhere. So that brings us to what we call individual experiences like hijacking, because it can happen even when one is driving. Things like psychological violence, where there's non-contact with the victim, but someone can swear at you or use bad language towards you or undermine you in whatever form, and consumer fraud, which is individual experiences. Having said that, one of the things we are picking up is that housebreaking is the most experienced crime. We had about 2.6 million incidents in the year under review 24-25, and it has been rising from about 5 years ago, where it was sitting at 1.9 million. And as it rises, we find that it is less reported with the police, because in most cases we see at household levels murder, it's reported at about 100%, because it's scary, it's worrying. Even if someone is attacked in a household, if before the other household members arrive, the neighbors, if they have had an alarm being raised, they will inform the police. Theft of motor vehicles stolen, theft of motor vehicle reported because there's also an insurance incentive. So is assault, but things like housebreaking, sexual offenses, they are less reported at household level than what we see at individual level.
Okay, so that point is made, but we agree that is still the number one touch point between our experience as people with crime, which is housebreaking, which is obviously very, very scary, because that's the one that scares most people anyway. There's more. The other one that I found very interesting is about people feeling safe walking and the contrast between day and night. Tell me more about that.
Let us start and say that generally most crimes do occur at night. And one thing that we have asked people to tell us how safe they feel. And people tend to feel much more safer walking during the day. So let's start from where we were 5 years ago. 85% of the people, individuals, indicated that they felt safer walking during the day. It started declining until last year, where it was sitting at 80.4%, which is about 80%. But it has gone, the confidence has gone up a bit. So that is a good indicator, because when people start feeling free to walk about, especially in their neighborhood, whether it's during the day or at night, it does indicate that people are feeling confident that crime is going down. So, but at night, it's still lower than how we see during the day. At night, 5 years ago, we were sitting at about 40%, 39.6% to be exact. It dropped to about 35%. It's now at 36% for this year under review. So we see it's increasing a bit, but it hasn't jumped very high like we have seen people walking during the day. And most people felt safer in Limpopo walking during the day or at night. During the day in Limpopo, it was 97% compared to the Western Cape, where it was 68.6%. Whereas at night, people in Limpopo felt safer at 64% compared to people in Mpumalanga at 27%.
I see the national average for the night is sitting around 35% or so anyway, right? Which I mean, as you said, is high. How are you able to tell us how does that compare to other countries, maybe similar countries to ours, just to give us a sense of perspective?
We do not, and I haven't looked at that, Ashraf.
Okay.
And obviously, our confines for surveys are internal in the country. And with crime statistics, it depends on a lot of things from country to country, where certain issues that are seen more as prevalent and worrying. I mean, look at, for example, in the rural provinces of our country, we see generally people feeling safer than in urban provinces, whereas in other countries, people would feel safer in urban areas than what you would see in rural areas.
The other one that I found very, very interesting is consumer fraud, and those numbers are particularly telling. Tell me about that.
Well, let us start by saying, Ashraf, that generally consumer fraud relates to a lot of things. One, it could be in relation to where people's cards have been tampered with. It's one of the things that we have picked up. Whereas also, it also relates to things where people could be made to focus or to lose focus on some of the things that they are acquiring at any given moment. And in this regard particularly, we have picked up that consumer fraud. Let us start by saying that at personal level, theft of personal property was the highest. And then, although it declined from the previous year, but when we look at consumer fraud, we see that between the 2 years, last year and this year, it has increased quite sharply by 54%. And of course, with electronics and cyber theft, that people can hijack your identity, and of course go and open accounts in your names, or somehow people can have their accounts swapped. And we also have situations where people may experience their accounts and not only their identity, but their accounts being hacked.
Yeah.
So those form part of that. But in the crimes at personal level, it's the one that seems to be increasing a lot more sharply than other experiences at individual
Just
level.
and this last 1 year is interesting. I mean, the stats say 69% of crime. Now, I'm not too sure which level of crime that is, because you already made the distinction about violent crime, but 69% of crime is where people chose not to report it. That's a huge number. Which crimes are we talking about there?
Well, firstly, when we say 69%, we are talking largely generalities in terms of all crime, but we can then unpack them. So if we unpack them, for example, we spoke earlier of experiences at household level, but we can now come and look at experiences at personal level. We can see that at the personal level, for example, hijacking was most reported, and sexual offenses and assault. However, consumer fraud, because sometimes it is difficult for people to bring sufficient evidence, as well as theft of personal property and street robbery, are the ones that are at lower levels of being reported.
Okay.
So only 69 are not reported, only 31% are reported.
All right. Yeah.
But I know you said it's the last one, but just a quick one, if you allow me, Ashraf.
All right. I'll tell you what. Just put that on pause. I want to hear your quick one, and we'll do that right after this.
Are you looking for the best savings on spectacles? At Specsavers, enjoy 1,500 Rand off when you get tested at South Africa's trusted and most established optical group. Get 1,500 Rand off all frames in store, or use your 1,500 Rand off on our leading lens enhancements, such as drive light lenses that reduce artificial glare whilst driving. Book online or call your nearest store today. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
When you're smiling, describe your favorite socks.
Pink and orange stripes.
They're blue with yellow dots.
Green, and they kind of look like snakes.
The ones that make children smile.
On 19 September, wear your favorite socks and help spread smiles to children in need of a life-changing surgery. Get your Socks for Smile sticker today at smilefoundation.co.za. This is an SABC-supported initiative.
From the brilliant buzz of Joburg to the beautiful beaches of the Eastern Cape, Fly Safair has you covered. That's right, from 1st November, we'll be flying from Lanseria Airport to both East London and PE, just in time for the holiday rush. Tickets are on sale now from only 770 Rand. So whether it's for work or play, plan your Eastern Cape escape from Lanseria or vice versa. Book now at flysafair.co.za. Fly Safair, for the love of fly. T's and C's apply.
Right, this message is brought to you by Ituba, the proud operator of the National Lottery. Mzansi, get ready to Panda Push-Up Play, Powerball and Powerball Plus for a total of 76 million rands in total estimated jackpot small for today. Play Powerball for an estimated 31 million rands and Powerball Plus for an estimated 45 million rands. Buy your tickets now in store on the nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529 hash for USSD. Panda Push-Up Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, you can start calling in right now. We'll talk about the crime stats as the big story to start the show, but anything else that you want to get off your chest, 086 000 2032 to call live. Otherwise, you can WhatsApp in voice note or text 0614 104 107. Let's conclude the chat then with Risenga Maluleka, the Statistician General and Head of Stats SA. Right, you said you had one more important thing that you want to reveal, right?
Yeah, one of the things that the data indicated is that 48.6% of individuals reported that in the case of assault at individual level, the perpetrator was known to them. But when we unpack that further, we picked up that, and when we say the perpetrator is known to them, it's either a spouse or intimate partner, a friend or acquaintance, or a relative or other household members. But in this particular one, when we looked at the case of women were 47.3% were assaulted by a spouse or intimate partner. And when you bring that someone they know or in the household, it was more than 60%. So it does show that women are not they are vulnerable to an environment or with people that should be protecting them. Whereas men, when they were assaulted, it was a case of an unknown person, 43.6%, which maybe they were out drinking or they were walking at night and they met an unknown person. So that contrast is one of the things that I wanted to bring about.
I think thank you for doing just that. Appreciate your time, much appreciated. Risenga Maluleke, Statistician General and the head of Stats SA, looking at the latest crime stats. And there's so much to take out of there. Even the last points about whether it's 43 or 46 or 47%. What it also means is that 1 in every 2 people that are victims of assault are assaulted by someone they know. Now, this is whether it's male or female, right? Which is interesting because they always say, don't spend time with strangers. Not that strangers are fine, because, the numbers also say strangers are a problem. But the fact that people that you know may assault you in this country is a huge, huge cause for concern. Right, I need to hear what you have to say. So let's get those calls. You're on the pulse, aren't you?
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Okay, I'll pick out some of your WhatsApp comments and certainly other calls if you're going to call in live on some of the issues that you wish to raise. Certainly for now, at this point in time, the biggest issue has got to be the issue of the crimes, the crime issues that we've just talked about. There's also an ANC media briefing that's taking place right now. If you wish to comment on that, you certainly can do, and we'll do it as soon as we can. But to crime issues we go, to Pretoria we go, in fact, with Sammy in Pretoria. Hi, Sammy. Hi.
Hi, Ashraf. I'd like to comment on this issue of victim crime survey. And I hear your Statistics General saying that when it comes to women, they are assaulted by people that they know, either a spouse or a boyfriend. But when it comes to men, they are assaulted by random people. Are they telling us that within their survey, they want any men who are assaulted by their spouses or by their partners at all? Because there are different surveys, different from these ones, which, like for example, the one that are conducted by the Iteka Peace and Development Initiatives, and it indicates that men who are assaulted by their intimate partners, women, account for 42%. So my question is this: were they posing different questions to men and women? Because to say that men were only assaulted by random people as opposed to their spouses and random spouses or romantic partners, it doesn't tell the accurate picture.
Okay, but look, I hear you. This is, of course, based upon what they've given us as it stands, and there may well be anomalies. I certainly hear that. Appreciate your time, Sammy, in Pretoria. There's more, because I want to get more comments from you. What do you make of this crime stats? What do you make of the fact that the number one touch point in terms of your experience with crime is not walking on the street and somebody taking your mobile phone? It's actually house breakings. That should scare the daylights out of most people, I think.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. This is Mbongo Sundisa. Mr. Ashraf, can you contact whoever is in charge of forensics in the SAPS? You see, the gentleman who was killed in Maponya Mall, up until now, the guy has not yet been buried simply because they are waiting for forensic lab results. So, man, they must try to fix this thing. They delay too much. Why are they not having forensic labs provincially? Or if they do have, why are they not functioning properly? Why are they always taking long for them to finalize these forensic results? Thanks.
All right, got that. Why they're taking so long? Yeah, we probably need to get an answer from someone who can understand why does it take that long. I hear you, right? Here's one about the IEC.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. IEC announced that we've got 472 political parties in South Africa. What does that demonstrate? It demonstrates that everybody wants to have his hand on the state money. So we are such a corrupt society, actually. We don't have an ANC problem, we've got a society problem. 472 political parties, all of them, they want one way or another to have their hands in the cookie jar.
Ish, I hear you. When are you and I going to start a political party? Just think about it. I believe it's been about 15 new ones since the last election. And about 13 or 14 in the last month alone. Sure, man, you may just be right. Like, why? Why that many, right? Okay, let's think about all of that. Let's now get to an update with the news headlines with Ondela Mbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, Mamuloko Kumai, has suspended the Deputy Director General responsible for ICT pending a full investigation and a disciplinary process. The Western Cape Education Department has raised concerns following the recent taxi-related shootings. At least 6 people have been killed in Philippi East, Khayelitsha and Makassar in the past 2 days. And Norway's wealth fund, one of the biggest in the world, is selling its shares in several companies that have links to Israel. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Germiston has a crash reported at Elands Interchange. The N1 southbound in Fourways, slow moving approaching Winnie Mandela Drive exit, and the M2 westbound in Crown has delays towards Main Reef Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound, a stationary track before Cliffdale. The M7 eastbound has track congestion reported in the Rosberg area, so you are to expect delays. And on the N2, a track crash reported north of Mtuba, so expect delays. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound has a crash before the N7 Jakes Gerwel Drive. The N2 outbound has a crash after Spine Road and Strand Road eastbound, slow moving towards the R300 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
Right, there's news about, we know who's in the final. Where are they playing? I'm talking of the MTN8.
Well, a very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. The MTN8 final between Orlando Pirates and Stellenbosch FC will once again be staged at the Moses Mabhida Stadium, making it the 11th time the Durban venue hosts the showpiece. Now, you might be wondering why the final so often goes to KZN. Well, it's because the eThekwini municipality bid package covers just about everything, and this includes no venue hire, flights and accommodation for players, referees and PSL staff, joint operations and venue management costs, plus an appearance fee for both clubs. So in total, the deal is worth 10 million rand, making Durban the go-to destination for the competition's final. And that final is going to be the 13th of September. So if you didn't know, now you know. Meanwhile, a total of 27,000 tickets have been sold for tomorrow's Betway Premiership match between Kaizer Chiefs and Mamelodi Sundowns at the FNB Stadium. But the ticket allocation could be up to 60,000. Stadium Management South Africa CEO Bertley Gropla confirmed this earlier today, as he also revealed that currently ticket allocation is set at 45,000 but could be increased to 60,000 by tomorrow at noon.
So as we're sitting here, ticket sales on 27,000 rounded. Now, if you allow me opportunity just to elaborate a bit, we've presented 2 plans to the ESSPC, a plan on 45,000 and a plan on 60,000. Now, to give some perspective to that, we always say safety and security comes first, but you need to balance commercial aspects related to planning as well. So if we go on the 60,000 planned capacity, opposed to the 45, there's 500,000 difference in cost related to city services, JMPD, medical, private security companies. So at this point in time, we made a decision. There's a meeting. As we speak, there's the Safety and Security Planning Committee meeting. We've made a decision and in discussions with the club, with their blessings, to make a call on this at 12 o'clock tomorrow afternoon.
Elsewhere, Real Betis are still pushing to do a deal for Manchester United forward Anthony. The clubs are in contact, but until now, Betis have been unable to match United's preference. According to reports, United do not want another straight loan, but rather they want a permanent element attached to any deal for the 25-year-old. Atletico Madrid, Bayer Leverkusen and Bayern Munich are also monitoring the Brazil international situation. Then in tennis, South Africa's Lloyd Harris is through to the US Open second round. This is after a straight sets win over Argentina's Sebastian Baez 6-3, 7-5 and 6-4 in New York. Next up for Harris, a tough round 2 clash, and that one is against world number 4 Taylor Fritz. In rugby, South African talent once again features heavily across the English Premier League, with almost every side boasting players born and bred in the Republic. The competition kicks off in just over a month, with the clubs already deep within pre-season and the battle for supremacy heating up. Bath, who are the defending champions, are led by former Springbok assistant coach Johan van Graan, and they're going to lean on Thomas du Toit as a cornerstone for their pack, while Quinn Roux, Francois van Wyk and Jaco Coetzee, who has been at the club since 2020, add further South African muscle with regards to that. And then just looking at the likes of Bristol Bears, they have the utility back Bernard Janse van Rensburg, who moved to England in 2021 after 3 seasons with the Cheetahs, and Exeter Chiefs have snapped up Springbok hooker Josep Dweba from the Stormers, while Cape Town-born Italian Ross Vincent continues to shine at Sandy Park. In motorsport, Sergio Perez and Valtteri Bottas will be back on the Formula One starting grid next season. This is after Cadillac announced the signing of the experienced race winners as the team's debut driver pairing. Now, the pair have undisclosed multi-year deals, and Cadillac, who will use Ferrari power units until 2029, when General Motors hopes to have its own, face a steep learning curve as the 11th team at the start of a new engine era. Anything's off with athletics. The 2025 season draws to a close with wildcards to next month's World Champs in Tokyo. Still up for grabs at the Diamond League Zurich tomorrow and Thursday. Noah Lyles and Tebogo Letsile renew their rivalry in the men's 200 meter, while 6 South African athletes have made the grade, booking their places in the final. 3 of the country's fastest men, Akani Simbini, Sean Maswangai, and junior sensation Bayanda Walaza, will line up in the men's 100-meter sprint. Prudence Khodiso, who is the world indoor champion, known for her tactical racing 12, she'll be racing in the women's 800-meter. Then looking at the women's 400-meter hurdle, Zane van der Walt faces off against Femke Bol and other top contenders. Remember that the World Athletics Championship will take place in Tokyo from the 13th to the 21st of September. Before I go, I heard that I do have a voice note from one of our listeners.
Can we play it? Yeah. Okay. Shall I do it? Yeah. Well, no, they're playing it from that side. No, I think it's about the MTN8. So yeah, let me just play that. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. This is Mtora in Philippi, Cape Town. It is really sad to hear that Moses Mabhida will be hosting the MTN8 for the 11th time. It is really sad to hear that, because I don't know what is wrong with the people who are bidding for this thing. Or I am sure there is corruption somewhere, somehow. If you can look close into this bidding thing, and why is Moses Mabhida getting all the tenders for MTN8, you will realize that with these municipal managers and municipalities, there is corruption involved. There is always corruption somewhere, somehow, because you cannot explain why Moses Mabhida is getting it for the 11th time. Even last year, the MTN8 semi-final was supposed to come to Cape Town, but it did not happen. Why was that? You see, I'm sure corruption is involved somewhere, somehow. It is so sad. It is really sad. This is Mtura in Cape Town.
Right. Mtura, thank you. Let me pass it on to the expert.
I don't know.
Is corruption involved?
No, I don't know about corruption. I can't say yes or no, but I did explain earlier on. It's because the eThekwini municipality has literally said, if you come to us, you're not gonna pay for the venue hire. You're not going to pay for flights and accommodation for players, referees, and the PSL staff, and the joint operations and venue management costs, meaning including medical and security. They cover that, and on top of that, appearance fees for both clubs.
But here's the big question, right?
Yes.
So eThekwini, we're talking Durban tourism, right?
Yes.
That means every time there's a cup final, there's a bidding process. There's a pitching process where a host city or stadium must pitch why they must get it, and they obviously have to incentivize the PSL in this case as to why they should get it.
Yeah. So probably all the other municipalities, somehow the PSL has to pay, or someone has to pay for some of these things, the venue hire and stuff like that.
Even that, it's this. Let's just ignore corruption, as the caller suggested. Let's say it doesn't exist. Even then, the league has to weigh the savings of money, right, versus what's actually right for the total brand of football in the country. And if it's always played in one venue.
Absolutely. I mean, I think looking at last season, from my understanding, as I did say, this deal is around 10 million rand. I think last season it was like 10.2 million rand. What they got in return is around 21 million rand. So
I'd like to bid. Let's see where that takes me. You never know. Maybe Miami will bid and say, let that game, like the La Liga game, happen there. Let's bring the MTN8s to the USA. Thanks for that. To me more in an hour.
This Women's Month, SAFM stands with the women shaping South Africa's future. Under the theme, Building Resilient Economies for All, we honor the pioneers, the problem solvers, and the everyday heroes driving change. Stay tuned as SAFM brings you powerful stories and meaningful conversations that move us. SAFM, celebrating women, celebrating progress. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out, because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Lots of people commenting about those numbers, the crime stats numbers, and how they formulated and how accurate they really are. Keeping in mind there's the official stats that's reported at the police stations, and then these are done by our survey by Stats SA, which is done, scientifically with a formula that they apply across the board for everything they do in the country, right? Okay, think about that. We'll chat to SA Harvest. They've won some big recognition that we need to talk about in the winning feature just now. But for now, let's get an update on the what seems to be the ongoing story of what is now called the Lungu family and their appeal regarding the body of the former president of Zambia, Edgar Lungu, to effectively have him buried privately in South Africa. So, they've taken the issue to the Constitutional Court, and the Concord has thrown that appeal out. Let's find out why with Kenny Mapanga, the SABC News reporter covering that story. Kenny, appreciate your time. You're on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and to the listeners.
Thank you. Right. So let's start with the reality. The Concord throwing out the appeal.
Yeah.
Did they say anything in terms of reasoning behind it?
Well, what you're looking at, Ashraf, is just an order from the Constitutional Court. They considered the matter based on the papers, and upon looking at the papers, apologies, they reached the conclusion that a case has not been made out for direct appeal. What you saw was the Lungu family, instead of starting the appeals process in the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria as intended, due to the issue of time and the fact that the remains are still at the mortuary, and it's been over 2 months now since he passed away, without this matter being resolved between the parties. What they attempted to do, which in some cases can work for particular litigants if they meet the grounds for direct appeal, they tried to skip that process and head straight to the Constitutional Court. However, the Constitutional Court reached a conclusion that they had not made out a case for such direct appeal, and of course refused the application. So essentially what that means is that it leaves them with two options: to go back to the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria and launch the appeals process there, or to go into negotiations with the Zambian government and perhaps try to find a resolution outside of court.
Okay, so did the family then respond in any way outside court once the order was delivered?
The order was delivered electronically. We haven't heard from the family yet regarding what their next step will be. However, the Zambian government has made it clear that they welcome the order and that they will continue with negotiations with the Lungu family, but their position remains unchanged, that the former president must be given a dignified funeral and burial in his homeland of Zambia, not in a foreign country. So it's up to the two parties now to either find a resolution, find each other on the issues that they might have regarding this. But as we speak right now, in the absence of any order overturning that full bench judgment, that full bench judgment still stands, which basically entitles the Zambian government the right to repatriate the former president for the purposes of a state funeral and burial. In the absence of any successful appeal process, then the remains of the former president, the late former president, would have to be surrendered to the Zambian government. So essentially where we are now is if the family chooses to go back to the High Court of Pretoria and launch that appeals process, it could further delay the late former president's remains from being laid to rest, because you would have to wait for that appeals process to finish. Or what could happen is that the parties could continue negotiations and try and find one another on this issue, which could then mean that the matter's outside of court and that they can now repatriate the remains back to his homeland for burial. But as things stand right now, there's no indication from the Lungu family what steps they'll be taking next. As I've stated, Ashraf, this was a full bench judgment that they're trying to appeal. Quite a well-reasoned full bench judgment by the most senior judges in the Gauteng High Court, which dealt with this matter in terms of Zambia's public interest laws and a public policy. Okay. It'll be quite a difficult task to try and appeal that judgment. It may be a better option for the family to negotiate, but as things stand right now, we've heard from the Zambian government that that door is still open, but it's not clear yet from the Lungu family whether they'll go back to the High Court and start this very lengthy process again, or if they'll negotiate. And it's interesting, I mean, one may wonder, like, negotiate what? If, for example, the Zambian government has already said that, you know, the key part is that the former president must be given an honorable funeral in his home country. So that part, my understanding of the negotiation, is not negotiable. You may wonder what is there left to negotiate. Well, there's a lot of issues that have come out in the court hearing, but I think the most pressing issue is the issue of the current head of state of Zambia, President Hakainde Hichilema, and the kind of role he would play in this particular state funeral. It seems that the two parties are not finding each other on this issue. The Gauteng High Court in Pretoria shied away from giving any order that would deal with that emotive issue because it wasn't within their realm of evidence to deal with, which is what a public interest litigation is. They only looked at where the late president was domiciled and what the best interests of the Republic of Zambia and this nation was when assessing that particular matter. But we know that the family has quite a significant issue, and it's been quite apparent in the court hearing, as well as their reaction to the full bench judgment, of the current head of state's involvement or what would be the involvement if he were to preside over that funeral, and what the meaning of preside would mean for that particular event if it were to take place. So I think that's the only impediment, Ashraf, to be quite honest, that could be standing in the way of Zambia's wishes to lay their former president to rest. If the parties could find each other on that issue, I don't think the matter would still be sitting in the courts for an appeals process to be complete.
Okay, let's leave it at that. I would think in chess terms, it's a case of, right, what's next? It's your move. Kenny Mapanga, much appreciate your time here on the National Pulse. Your reaction, welcome. But in the meantime, I will also tell you that we are going to pick out, you may be aware now that the Commission into justice issues and state security issues has been postponed. We're going to talk about that just now. But before that, there's a story from SA Harvest about winning, which we'll do in a moment. However, another comment on the MTN8 story. Clearly, it's got your attention. Temba in Gqeberha. Hi.
Hi, Ashraf. How are you?
Yeah, how's it, man? Go for it. Your point?
Look, Ashraf, man. It's so unfortunate that municipalities or public sector would choose to spend 10 million rand on an event that has already been budgeted. MTN entered into a contract with PSN and they set aside a budget. On annual basis, they set aside the full activity budget, booking of the stadia, hotels, traveling, security and everything. Municipalities should not spend 10 million rand on an event that would by any means go to them. Because if you look into the population of KZN, every agent wants to go to Durban to capture that market. So Durban had a chance to do it 20 times. But 10 million rand, it's not advisable for public funds to be spent on something that is budgeted for.
But to be fair, they may come back and say it gives them returns in terms of tourism, as you know. For example, if it's pirates, there's a whole lot of people, pirates, chiefs or whatever, but in this case, pirates, taking the trip to Durban. Yeah.
It would have gone to them. It would have given the population of the province, given the population of Durban itself, every company that is in the retail sector wants to associate itself with that population.
All right.
Durban.
Temba, thanks for that comment. Thanks for that comment, Temba. Much appreciated. There'll be more to come on that one. What do you feel about that whole story of the MTN8 being played for the 11th time at the Moses Mabhida Stadium in, eThekwini or Durban? What do you make of that? Is there a story behind that story? Well, what about a winning story from SA Harvest? We'll touch on that next.
After a 1-0 loss against Arsenal in the opening match of the new season, the Red Devils are searching for a win at Old Trafford.
Mason Mount! Oh, what a finish from Mason Mount! Curls it home 2-1.
However, the Clarets are gunning for a crucial 3 points away from home.
Just from Brownell! We're all square! What a goal from Burnley!
This is the Premier League. Experience Manchester United versus Burnley FC on Saturday 30 August at 3:30 p.m. Live on SABC3 and SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game!
You are the biggest saver we've ever had.
2,794 Rand a month. It was the easiest switch ever.
What was the real deal they could offer you?
870.
That's amazing. You're always getting something out.
Yeah.
I've been battling to get nice car insurance. Outsurance, I found them. I'm saving a cool $360.
Get the real deal with the real savings.
I made the right move.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands.
Just phone Outsurance, get a quote and see what they can offer you. If you don't save that 321 like I did, you might say get a 500 or $1,000 back. Service and savings, you'll always get something out. How is it that Outsurance provided the solution for you?
918 Rand is what I'm saving.
Incredible. What brought you and Outsurance together?
718 Rand. I end up saving.
They gave you the real deal.
It literally is the real deal.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
The Atlas Lions believe their plan to graduate to the final will succeed. But the Teranga Lions believe Lions from the West will undoubtedly roar and triumph. This is the semi-final clash of the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Morocco versus Senegal. This Tuesday, 26 August at 7:30 p.m. Live everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, whenever we get a chance, we talk about winning. And that's the case today with SA Harvest, one of South Africa's leading food rescue organizations. Now, while we're talking to them, they've been awarded the Premier Judges Spotlight Award, which is the highest accolade at the Africa Supply Chain Excellence Awards for 2025. Let's find out why with Cassandra Potgieter, Head of Strategy, Marketing and Communications at SA Harvest. Cassandra, appreciate your time and well done. It's a good win for you guys.
Thank you, Ashraf. We're so excited and thank you for talking with us today.
Well, I'm sure you are excited as I expect. So give me the story behind the story, so we understand why were you chosen.
Ashraf, this is quite a huge honor. So ASCIA is the Africa Supply Chain Excellence Awards, and what they do is they actually look at the industry for the industry, and they recognize organizations across the continent that demonstrate innovative ways and sustainable ways that can provide measurable impact in the supply chain ecosystem. That's basically a fancy way of saying they recognize the fact that they recognize our model that is designed for scale, that the impact that we achieve, and also how we do it.
Well, best you tell us how. I mean, what is it that you do? What have they recognized, therefore, in terms of the model that you can share with us?
So our model is a people-first logistics system, and we basically intercept surplus food. We rescue food. Normally, when I tell people we rescue food, I need to clarify we intercept it. That would have gone to landfill at source, and then we deliver it cost effectively. That means with no charge to our community-based organizations, who then distribute it to people who don't have food. Now, the secret in our source is that the way we orchestrate it makes our model super scalable and replicable nationwide. And it's also the most cost effective. So not just in terms of cost to people and money, but also cost to our environment.
Okay, how then does that, ultimately you're a business as in SA Harvest, but you also want to change lives. So how does this change the lives of people? How does it touch lives?
So what happens is we, in terms of the CERI report that was issued earlier this year, we have a dire problem on our hands at the moment. What happened, Ashraf, is that we throw away 10 million tons of food every year. It goes to landfill, perfectly good edible food. And it basically, we have 20 million hungry people in our country. So what happens is SA Harvest as a mechanism basically operates as an orchestration layer across the food value chain. So what we do is we leverage a collective strength in our ecosystem to make it possible, where we basically go and fetch food and take it to people who don't have. Now, if you take a step back and you know that in terms of the recent CERI report, just coming back to that, a third of households in Limpopo, a third of households in Mpumalanga, a third of households in the Eastern Cape are food insecure. That means it's a third of households who don't know where their next meal is going to come from. Now, in a country where we have so much surplus food, those are the people that we are targeting to say, we have extra food, how can we change your life? And when you take into consideration that 25% of small children under 5 are stunted due to malnutrition, we have a very big future-focused problem in our country, and our aim is to avert that, basically.
And I take it from the judging side, they felt that your organization, your company has done it better than most, so you've done it best.
Absolutely. Look, the one thing the main judges basically said to us that they commended us for operational excellence. We have a team that really puts our operations first. We have to make sure the cold chain is maintained, that food is fresh, that it gets on time before it goes off. But over and above that, it's also for social impact. So we basically combine logistics with a people-first approach. And I keep saying that, and that's because we serve vulnerable communities at scale. It's They basically commended us for a best-in-class example of supply chain for good, for lack of a better term.
Okay, yeah. Just the last thing I see your COO talks about, but the real story is what comes next. So very quickly, what comes next?
The next step would basically be where we basically work as a platform for partnership, as a conduit, because we believe everyone can join the collective and everyone can partner with us. We basically don't have competition. The only competition we have in this arena is hunger. And with more food note donations, so working with more farmers, working with more retailers, we give more food into the system.
Okay.
And using this as a platform where people can plug into, where we can increase our warehouse capacity, we can start modeling basically social franchises for hubs where people can drop off food and to be distributed with our reverse logistics elements.
Well, I'd like to think there can be a flood of people who would now contact you guys. We're going to have to leave it at that. Thank you for your time. Well done, Cassandra Potgieter. Well, not just to you, but to SA Harvest. And I've noted that last point about the SA Harvest having rescued 22 million kilograms of food up to a week or two ago. So, I mean, that's how significant it is. Much appreciate your time. Let's get the news now. It's 4 o'clock.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the top stories, ICT DDG to face disciplinary action, and Norway's wealth fund sells shares linked to Israel. For SFM News, I am Ondilambana, and a very good day. Justice and Constitutional Development Minister Mamoloko Kubai says the department's Director General, Dr. Mashabane, will face disciplinary action over the delay of the Madlanga Commission. Kubai has also announced the suspension of the Deputy Director General responsible for ICT, Jabu Hlatrayo. The action taken against Mashabane and Hlatrayo comes after the commencement of the commission was postponed indefinitely due to delays in the procurement of vital infrastructure. It was scheduled to start on the 1st of next month. Kubai elaborates.
This is because of the failures and lapses on the system, and also not being able to do due diligence and ensuring that the commission starts on time.
The Western Cape Education Department has raised concerns following the recent taxi-related shootings. At least 6 people have been killed in Philippi East, Khayelitsha and Makassar in the past 2 days. Provincial Minister David Mainir says the violence has sparked concern among parents and on social media. He says schools will remain open where possible, but closures are decided on a case-by-case basis with district officials if safety is at risk. Mainir has also urged parents to rely only on official communication from their children's school.
It's extremely disappointing that once again the violent behavior of the taxi organizations affects the ability of our learners to access their right to basic education. The best interests of our children should always come first. The department will continue to monitor the situation in the area closely with the support and the guidance of SAPS.
The Electoral Commission says it is improving its processes to enhance voting efficiency during next year's local government elections. Briefing the media at its headquarters in Centurion, north of Johannesburg today, IEC Deputy Chief Electoral Officer Masego Shiburi focused on interventions made regarding the voter management devices registration app.
It created duplicate records and therefore slowed down the rate at which we could confirm the correctness of voters at their voting station. We have isolated the issue, we have rewritten that app, and we will be commissioning external validation to give us assurance that the app will function as it is coded to do on voter registration. On by-elections that we've had since the elections, we've not struggled. The app has shown improved performance.
District officials from the Western Cape Department of Education says it will respond to allegations of racism at a high school in George. This after a learner at York High was captured in a video using an American racial slur to refer to a black pupil. Last week, a similar incident took place at a school in Knysna. This morning, department officials, the school principal and the EFF members met to discuss the situation. The EFF's Andile Makhaule explains.
That boy must be removed from the school to protect the rest of the children. The child that is affected and their family must be given psychosocial support to help empower them, because racism, it affects dignity, self-worth and the identity of a person. But the department here, they refused us with the school policy, with the documentations that were required to fast-track this process. As a result, we ended up cutting the meeting, arranging another meeting which were going to be scheduled on a further date.
Norway's wealth fund, one of the biggest in the world, is selling its shares in several companies that have links to Israel. 5 of them are Israeli banks and one is the U.S. manufacturer Caterpillar. The BBC's Amelia Jansen has the details.
The Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund claims that Israel is using bulldozers made by Caterpillar to destroy Palestinian property. It also claims that the banks are financing the construction of settlements in the West Bank, which are illegal under international law. The fund held just over $2 billion worth of shares in the US company. The move is part of a $1 billion sell-off, which has seen more than 20 companies linked to Israel excluded. The fund invests the revenue from Norway's oil and gas resources to secure wealth for future generations.
Recapping the top story, Justice and Constitutional Development Minister Mamoloko Kubai says the department's Director General Dr. Mashabane will face disciplinary action over the delay of the Madlanga Commission. I am Ondilambana for SFM News Headlines at 4:30.
In sports, the Sour Kaiser Chiefs announced signing of Lebogang Maboe and Masters invitation for 2026 Investec South African Open Champion. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Germiston has a crash reported at Geldenhuys interchange. All lanes are open. The N1 southbound in Midrand has a vehicle fire incident reported before Buccleuch interchange, queuing traffic both ways. And the N1 southbound in Pretoria, a stationary vehicle before Rigel Avenue. In KZN, the M7 westbound has a crash reported near Calmers Road, and that's causing some serious delays. In Cape Town, the M3 southbound slow moving towards Rhodes Drive, the M5 southbound is slow moving towards Racecourse Road exit, and Spine Road in Khayelitsha queuing at Jafta Kema Simola Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This year, the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival presents 3 unforgettable days deep in the art and heart of jazz. From the 26th, 27th and 28th of September, Umu Sankare, Ababemu, Jasmia Horn, Silent Law and the Noisemakers, Najbonk Trio, Michelle Ndingio-Jello, Willem Siini, Gabby Mutuba and over 50 world-class acts will be ready to welcome you and yours to 4 magnificent stages of the Sandton Convention Center. Take me there. Buy your tickets at Ticketmaster now.
The Atlas Lions believe their plan to graduate to the final will succeed. But the Teranga Lions believe Lions from the West will undoubtedly roar and triumph. This is the semi-final clash of the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Morocco versus Senegal. This Tuesday, 26 August at 7:30 p.m. Live everywhere, for everyone. Always on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So what for you moves the national pulse today? Of course, I have my own theories, you have yours. I'd love to know what you think. And if you're up for a conversation about it, feel free to call in any time. You know that. 086 000 2032 live. You can WhatsApp, voice or text 0614104107 or tweet using the hashtag The National Pulse. What for you moves the national pulse? Well, let's talk about this issue. And I wonder what you make of it. The Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, Mameloko Kubayi, together with the Deputy Minister, that's Andries Nel, briefed the media following the statement issued by the Commission of Inquiry into Criminality, Political Interference and Corruption in the Criminal Justice System. And what did that statement say? It announced the postponement of the commencement of the hearings, which, as you would know, would have been set for September the 1st. So, why would that be the case? We're going to talk about that. We've picked out some clips from there, and we're going to just play some of them anyway, because I think you need to hear some of the key highlights of the conversations they've had in terms of the why. It's an interesting one. Mainly, I understand, around infrastructure just not being put in place for now, right? What I'll do, here's the first of the clips we can play, and I think there's been many explanations to say, hold it, we need to get this right, and we need to get it right up front so there's no ambiguity around it, and I think very importantly that the public needs to have access to it all of the time. So the Minister of Justice, then Mameloko Kubayi, talks about this issue of the logistics for the Kampepe and Madlanga commissions.
Also making sure that we can be able to account transparently so to the South African population. And thus, I thank you for joining us so that we can give you an update in terms of the Kampepe Commission and the Madlanga Commission. So I'll refer them that way for ease of reference in terms of my media statement. The Kampepe Commission was announced and appointed on the 29th of May 2025 by the President, and the Madlanga Commission was appointed on the 13th of July 2025. On the 19th of August 2025, we've been able to announce and publish and gazette the regulations for both the commissions. That meant effectively that the commission will be able to start holding their hearings and being able to do their work. But this does not mean that during the time that the gazettes were not done of the regulations, because it takes some time to have the gazettes and to make sure that the texts are correct. They had already started on the basis of the announcement by the President and announcement of the terms of reference for their work. Since the announcements of the Commission, the Ministry instructed the officials in the department to fully work with the commissions to ensure all administrative and logistical arrangements are in place. As previously stated, the department is responsible for the procurement of services for the Commission in consultation with the Chairperson and the Secretary of the Commission. I'm pleased to report that significant progress have been made in relation to both the Commission. Starting with the Commission, Madlanga Commission. The venue for the Commission has been confirmed and secured in terms of logistics, and this is in agreement with the Commission. It is Bridget Mabandla Justice College, a state-owned entity. We do not have to be utilizing private entity. This is the approach we've taken for both the commissions. On the accommodation for the Kampepe Commission, we are utilizing Saibono in Johannesburg. Justice College is in Pretoria. Saibono is in Johannesburg. Both these are public institutions. So Saibono belongs to Gauteng, run by an NGO, and thus giving us to be able to pay and save the costs similarly as well. But you'd remember that Saibono actually ran some of the commissions, so the infrastructure was already in place. All we needed to do is to procure the venue and sign the memorandum of agreement so that we can be able to deal with.
Okay, and there's more. The Minister then spoke about the sensitivity of the Madlanga Commission.
Of administration in terms of appointment, we have allowed the Commission to appoint the people. So what they do, they source and then we are able to appoint. This we are trying to avoid. Previously, you would have heard that the department would ordinarily second individuals to the commission. In cognizance of the sensitivity of this commission, especially Madlanga Commission, we've ensured that we don't second individuals because we are also a subject of investigation. So that we have done to immune the commission from interference by ourselves. And that's why when we talk about even the issue of protection of whistleblowers, so that we're looking beyond what the state and those that normally provide to see what mechanisms can we be able to do so that you don't say a witness in the commission then ends up in the hands of the same people that they are testifying against. So we're doing that as well. We're finalizing that. We're working together. We're making suggestions to the commission. So as I say, there's others which are at my level that I have conversations with the commission, and there will be almost like administrative work that is at the level of the officials. Both the DDG responsible for court administration, infrastructure, and DDG for infrastructure and also corporate services are interacting with the commissions regularly. And
there's more. You may have heard the story of the suspension of the Justice Director of ICT. Well, the minister then commented about that.
Following all this, as I got notified on Friday, I immediately reported the situation to the head of state, the president, who was traveling back from TICAT, who immediately we agreed that I'll do a full report to him, which was done by Friday. On Friday, as I did the report, I had immediately put the DDG responsible for ICT, Mr. Jabu Tlachwayo, on immediate suspension, pending a full investigation and a disciplinary process. This is because of the failures and lapses on the system, and also not being able to do due diligence and ensuring that the commission starts on time.
Right, so that's that. There's more to come. There's certainly more to come from you. We'll get a reaction on those crime stats as well coming up shortly, and I'm sure you'd want to have your own input on that as well. But let's get to some of the thoughts. And it's interesting that the MTN Aid story has certainly captured the imagination. Right, let's do that. Yeah.
Guys, let's not look for a fault where there's no fault here. This MTN Aid final thing, you can look at what's happening with the COSAFA Cup. It's being held in South Africa year in, year out. You look at AFCON there, was being held in Morocco year in, year out again. So I guess the Durban there is providing some other things which some other intending hosts are not able to match. Just as the same as these other tournaments. There are some good things being done in South Africa to attract that tournament, that COSAFA tournament. Andrew in Butterworth.
Thanks for that, Andrew. Well, say Durban or Tegwini trying whatever they have to do to keep that tournament in that city because of the spin-offs that it has for tourism. Absolutely. What about the others? But what's the overall policy of the PSL with regard to this? Is it always a pitching process?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. This is Nati from Cape Town. Ashraf, on top of the commission, now we've got the hearing of suspension. These people are playing with us, man. Are playing with us? No, man. No. Yes, yes.
They just playing with you is what you're saying. But it's not going to be for a long time. It's going to come up soon again. You know that.
Hi, Ashraf. This is Sabata from Durban. Ashraf, anyone who criticizes the Tegwini municipality for spending those millions in securing this MTN Cup final is short-sighted because the returns are going to be multiplied to that 10 million that they are spending now. Thank you.
Well, look, I mean, that's what I would think, right? So I don't think we're discussing from a Tegwini or Durban point of view. It's really about, from a PSL point of view, does that make sense that you get one venue that gets the games, and they are one of the bigger venues, but gets the games far more often than others? I mean, what's the whole rationale behind it?
Good day, Ashraf, and all the listeners of SAFM. Ashraf, we are aware of these stats, and we kind of appreciate the science behind them. But they have to be a little bit factual, because we all know and we've all experienced in our communities, we've seen men get abused by their spouses and female spouses. So these stats, genuinely, I think there's something a little bit concerning about the fact that they don't even show those parts of where men get abused by their wives. And that seems to be something we already queue. And I'm hearing how we all just make excuses for those stats not to be counted. It's a little off-putting. Seppo from Potchefstroom.
Okay, a bit off-putting. I wonder if others analyze it in the same way. I mean, what is it about the stats that is so off-putting? Well, here's another topical one.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. This is Nati from Cape Town. Ashraf, on top of the commission now.
Sorry, that one did not delete by me, so let's sort that one out. Okay, here's another.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and the listeners. I'd like to be anonymous for this. I come from Zambia initially, and I believe truly that the body and all our family members belong to the families first, not the state. Even if he was a previous president, the family's wishes need to be followed. And in these circumstances where there was bad blood between the current president and Mr. Lungi, that's absolutely the family's prerogative. They could actually concede to doing a state funeral, and the current president can just sit somewhere demurely and in grace in the background. But the family's choice to then take the body and bury it in their family burial ground, for me, is paramount. In the event, for example, that Zuma died and Ramaphosa was to preside over the funeral, can you imagine the chaos in this country? So that's my 2 cents worth. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe the negotiation is that if the two presidents have had a fallout, then they would agree that the incumbent president does not preside over anything if that's the wishes of the family. I mean, something along that line. There's got to be some way to strike a deal on this one, don't you think? Right, let's talk about a crime deal, because we've got crime stats. We'll analyze that in a moment.
The Atlas Lions believe their plan to graduate to the final will succeed. But the Teranga Lions believe Lions from the West will undoubtedly roar and triumph. This is the semi-final clash of the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Morocco versus Senegal, this Tuesday, 26 August at 7:30 p.m. Live everywhere, for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
This week on Off-Pitch Goals, Sonono and Sanela Khoza join us and take us through the storied success of the Zodwa Khoza Foundation. We talk legacy, community building, and youth career pathways. Tune in to SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 this Saturday, 30 August at 6:30 p.m. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Off-Pitch Goals, where we showcase how the stars score in business. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Okay, early on I had a chat with the Statistician General, that's Risenga Maluleke, on the latest crime stats. Listen to that conversation. It's up as a podcast, so do listen to it and maybe use that as a base of conversation when you meet your family tonight, because it's important. It tugs at our hearts, especially in terms of that one point, that the most frequent touch point between people in South Africa and crime is around the issues of housebreaking in some form. Not necessarily violent or none, but either way, it is housebreaking. That's the number one issue that prevails when people encounter crime in South Africa. So let's try and get another thought on this in terms of trying to dissect what we've just heard. With me is Dr. Chris de Kock, who's an independent crime expert, former head of the Crime Information Analysis Center. Dr. de Kock, appreciate you connecting with us on the National Pulse.
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon to the listeners.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, I mean, you may have done 20 interviews, maybe 15 a year, every year for the last decade. When has it ever been that you've had to sing a song of praise because our crime stats have come down substantially? That hasn't been the case, right?
Yeah, no. Our crime stats, unfortunately, there was a time, 2003 to 2011, when it leaves the major indicator of crime, which is murder, the one that we can all trust, the murder trend, went down dramatically from 25,000 to 15,000. So, but then things were done correctly. After that, things terribly went wrong. Whatever went wrong, and our murder figure escalated back to the old figures of 25 and above.
Okay.
But if I look at this stats, that and they call it crime stats, and to me that's worrying. It's extremely worrying that we will call this crime stats. This is the results of a survey, a victims of crime survey. I have great respect for the way that surveys are being done by Stats South Africa. I really think they do a proper and a good job. So I have no problem with their surveys. But I think they've got it wrong somewhere. And I said that this now for the last 10 years. I even written articles about this, which was published. And it seems literally nobody worry a thing about that. Let's start with the housebreaking.
Yeah.
They say there was 1,493 million. Let's make it 1,5 million housebreakings. The police stats, and unfortunately, police have not released. There's a problem, it seems, of their releases. I don't know if this new commission and everything is chaotic in the police at present, but they haven't released, unfortunately, the 24-25 annual crime statistics that I can find. But let's take large year figures. I think it will be very close.
So wait, you are making a distinction between the police stats and this stats assay crime survey, right?
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, the survey results and the calculations based on the survey results. Now, according to Stats South Africa, there was a 43% reporting of housebreakings, which to me sounds very good. That's why I say I trust their surveys. I think maybe only 43%, less than half of people report housebreakings to the police. But the police, for a year, have got about 154,000 housebreakings. Now, what I would have done, and I've said it for 10 years now, I would have said, okay, if the police had a reported figure of 154,000, and Stats South Africa say, yeah, but only 43% of people report housebreakings, then I would have recalculated the police figure based on that 43, and I would have come to, 360,000.
Yeah,
Now,
I hear you, absolutely.
Yeah, the 360,000, which to me would have been a very realistic figure. But that is less than 4 times the figure that Stats South Africa referred to. The same apply to a thing like home robbery. Stats South Africa say no. There were 259,000 home robberies, according to their calculations based on the underreporting. They say there's an underreporting rate of 51%. 49%. Now, according to my calculations, because the police say there were only 23,614. So what I would say, if that was the underreporting figure found by Stats South Africa, then the real figure should be something like 46,000, which is 6 times lower than the figures that Stats South Africa referred to. Now, this is absolute confusing. It's not only confusing, this creates a picture which creates fear, and it creates a picture which can affect foreign investment, foreign tourism to South Africa, because we inflate figures. And then suddenly, when it comes to personal crimes, crimes against a person, not crimes against a property, Then we find that Stats South Africa say, no, they found, according to their calculations, they found, okay, they first say all murders are reported, 100%, which I can agree with. But they then found a figure of 14,000 murders, while the latest crime stats for a year that the police release is 27,621, which is the opposite picture. So something is wrong. And I think what is wrong is, especially when it comes to property crime, is they should use the underreporting figure, the percentage, and take the police figures and then calculate a new figure.
Okay, so I hear what you're saying. I mean, you're effectively challenging or questioning those two variable numbers between the police actuals and the survey, and saying if that were the case, then those numbers should be much higher than they really are in terms of the actual. Now, having said that, let's work with what we know. What is your analysis of what's come through today in terms of what has been reported today?
Actually, what is reported today, I would like to wait for the police figures for the whole year of 24-25 to be released. I don't know when it's going to be released. I think it should have been released already. But the fact of the matter is, the figures that was released today, to me, make no sense, to be very honest.
Okay.
The figures released to me today, it is impossible that we could have 1.5 million house breakings. No. That is absolute ridiculous.
Okay.
The same applied, on the other hand, to murders, that we only had half of the murders that actually occurred. Murder, there's a body. A murder always gets reported to the police. And if people afterwards, you go and interview people, and you only find 14,000 murders, then that indicates that people don't understand what is a murder. Maybe because it's only half of what was reported to the police.
All right. Let's leave it at that. Appreciate you giving off your time. Thank you for that. So they were questioning those numbers, which effectively means questioning the report and questioning, very importantly, the data in terms of the actual crime stats. And according to Dr. Chris de Kock, it's not like out by a few percent. It's like out by massive numbers, which totally distorts things. And it's, in fact, far worse than it really is. Wow. Ondela Mbana is here. Here's the news headlines.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, the Zambian government has welcomed the Constitutional Court order refusing the family of the late former President Edgar Lungu to directly appeal the judgment of the High Court in Pretoria. Justice and Constitutional Development Minister Mamuluko Kubai says the department's Director General Dr. Mashabane will face disciplinary action over the delay of the Madlanga Commission. And Limpopo police have opened an inquest docket following the death of a 10-year-old girl at Padzima Dzumbato village outside Louis Trichardt. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Hoos.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound queuing towards Boysons, Daspoort Tunnel in Pretoria queuing at the tunnel, and the N1 N3 northbound queuing on the link to the N1 north at Buccleuch interchange due to a vehicle fire incident on the opposite carriageway. In KZN, the M7 westbound has truck congestion reported in that Rosberg area, so expect delays. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound is stationary truck after the N7 Jakes Hadwell Drive and Albert Road outbound, slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
So to me, I can imagine Kaizer Chiefs supporters saying, forget this discussion about Moses Mabhida Stadium. Let's talk about Chiefs and where we headed this season. So you got some news about them.
Absolutely. Well, Kaizer Chiefs have announced the signing of former Mamelodi Sundowns midfielder Lebogang Mabue. Mabue spent the latter part of the 2024-25 season on loan at SuperSport United. The 30-year-old, who was part of Chiefs Youth Development Academy, marks the 10th signing of the club, and they haven't as yet announced how long is the deal with the club. Meanwhile, Mamelodi Sundowns goalkeeper Ronan Williams has stressed stressed the importance of bouncing back quickly from their MTN 8 disappointment as they prepare for a crucial Betway Premiership clash away to Informa Chiefs tomorrow night. The Brazilians were knocked out of the Cup by Orlando Pirates, and Williams has admitted that morale in the Sundowns camp has taken a hit and called for an immediate response, promising to be another stern test.
Yeah, obviously not a good space to be in now. You can see the guys are still a bit down. The mood is not one of the best. Obviously we had big objectives, is to start the campaign on a positive note, which was to go all the way in the MTN 8, but it wasn't to be. We just have to dust ourselves off and go again.
Elsewhere, Chelsea's Cole Palmer is out for this weekend's game against Fulham due to a groin injury. The midfielder was forced to pull out of the Blues game on Friday, and after being seen holding his groin minutes before kick-off, Palmer underwent scans today to determine the full extent of any issue. Then in cricket, Danae Van Niekerk has revealed that her father's recent passing was one of the key reasons for wanting to play for the Proteas women again. This is following the announcement of her return to international cricket yesterday. Van Niekerk is attempting to don the green and gold again for the first time after an abrupt end to her career 2 years ago.
Yeah, look, it's been 2 years, and out of the game, I just realized how much I miss it. Seeing the success of the team, obviously, besides anything, it makes you proud and you want to be part of that. And I think that's kind of the main reason. And recently I went through something quite traumatic in my family. My dad passed away, and it's almost like something like that gave me the new why, and it's a very strong why for me. And I think, it wasn't easy. There's a lot of conversations that was had. But I think now is the right time. As I say, I think my why is the most important thing, and I want to get back contributing to this environment.
In tennis, Elina Svitolina has been knocked out of the US Open in the first round, losing in straight sets to Anna Badona of Hungary. Badona forced back-to-back breaks at the end of the first set, taking it 6-2, but then failed to close out the match when serving for it at 5-2 in the second. Badona then made no mistake with her second opportunity, though, sealing a 6-2, 6-4 win to beat Svitolina for the first time in 3 career meetings and to set up a second-round match against Maria Sakkari. In the meantime, 12th seed Casper Ruud of Norway eased into the second round after beating Sebastian Offner of Austria in straight sets 6-1, 6-2 and 7-5, and he will next face Rafael Clinton of Belgium in the second round. Finally, in golf, the Sunshine Tour has announced that the winner of the 2026 Investec South African Open will receive an invitation to the 2026 Masters Tournament and a place in one of the most iconic stages in the game. Further to top this, the RNA has also stated its intention to retain the Investec South African Open as part of the Open qualifying series for the 154th Open at Royal Birkdale. Now, the National Open means that will now be the direct pathway into 2 of the most iconic majors in the game for Sunshine Tour members. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour.
Okay, what do you make? Just a quick thought on Orlando, on Kaizer Chiefs and their pretty decent start to the season.
Yeah, very decent, very in form. So a lot of people are saying now that the head coach is back, we are yet to see if they will continue with that form.
Suggesting the head coach is going to have his head on the block if they lose a game now.
Yo. And imagine if they beat Sundowns tomorrow, how happy and loud they're going to be.
I always say the parallels between Kaizer Chiefs and Manchester United they mirror each other in so many ways because of their relative wealth and support. But whereas they've got this big game against Sundowns tomorrow, Man United currently are 16th on the log, one below their position last year. So
you can't compare the two anymore, unfortunately.
And they're playing Grimsby tomorrow.
Yeah.
Things are looking rather grim if they don't win, yeah.
Get ready, South Africa! 12,000 athletes from every corner of the country will hit the ground running in the 5th edition of the Hollywood Bets Durban 10 Kilometer. A thrilling road race starting and finishing at Hollywood Bets Kingsmead Stadium. It's more than a race. It's all about community, good vibes, and rising to the challenge. Catch the action live on Saturday, 30th of August at 7 a.m. on SABC2, SABC Plus, and across SABC radio stations. Hashtag Let's Run and feel the energy. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Do you know what's hiding behind the colorful packaging of unhealthy food? Big food companies target children with unhealthy packaged foods that hide high levels of sugar, salt, and fat, which could lead to heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension. But the truth is hidden from consumers. Front of package warning labels are a proven solution to help consumers make informed decisions. The government must act now. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front of package warning labels. Sign the petition on heala.org, HEALA.org, by the 30th of September.
Amakhosi have a different strategy. They want to collect maximum points in the early days of the season. While reigning champions, Masandawana, want to sing their happy song, Double Yellow. This is the Betway Premiership. Catch Mzansi's Clash of Giants, Kaizer Chiefs versus Mamelodi Sundowns, this Wednesday, 27 August at 6:30 p.m. live on SABC3 and SABC Plus. Then on SABC radio stations at 7:30. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
This message is brought to you by Ichuba, the proud operator of the National Lottery. Mzansi, get ready to Panda Push-Up Play, Powerball and Powerball Plus for 76 million rands in total estimated jackpots for today. Play Powerball for an estimated 31 million rands and Powerball Plus for approximately 45 million rands. Buy your tickets now in-store on the nationallottery.coza, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial star 120 star 7529 hash for USSD. Panda Push-Up Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ichuba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, talk about other numbers. Here's Makwe Masilela from Makwe Fund Managers. You've got news about Old Mutual, Makwe.
Yes, Ashraf, and the guys benefited from the share buybacks, exceptional growth in Old Mutual Insure, and the impact of favorable financial markets. And prior period included ones of adverse mortality experience when it comes to the personal finance and impairment of the secured loan when it comes to the mass and foundation cluster. And their profits as adjusted headline earnings per share up 41%. Not surprising to see the share price going up by almost 5%. And Ashraf, earlier in the session, the US dollar weakened after Trump fired the Fed Governor Lisa Cook over alleged mortgage fraud, a move that heightened concerns over the central bank's independence. Ashraf, this is not a kitchen table discussion. It's far more serious, and it's not going to be that easy. But we then saw emerging markets dropping. Emerging market currencies dropping, including the rand that's ahead of key U.S. inflation data. Also, stocks rallies fading. Bonds, we've seen them dropping, and also ahead of the very same economic data. And since he took office, Ashraf, Trump has managed to get his way on most things he has turned his attention to. In this context, it may seem reasonable for markets to conclude that he may end up getting his way when it comes to the central bank. And further note that now lately there's a lot of selling of the US dollar from institutional investors again. And after surging 2% in the previous session, oil fell today as traders are reassessing the developments surrounding the war in Ukraine and also potential disruption of Russian fuel supplies. We see Brent crude is down 1.7% at $67 a barrel. And earlier gold traders were concerned over the U.S. Central Bank independence, but those gains are now fading. As a secondary reaction to those concerns, we see the yellow metal is up 0.1% at 3,371, but platinum is up 1.7% at 1,347. Global stock stocks are marginally down, with the JSE down 0.3%, and our financials and industrials are dragging us down, and the rand just fell 0.2% against the US dollar, is now 17.63, 23.77 against the pound, and 20.55 against the euro.
Okay, got all of that. Thank you for that. We'll connect tomorrow, of course, but there is full hour of the markets with Jimmy Moyaha coming to you from Durban today, by the way, from 6 to 7 this evening.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right. I wonder what you make of the conversations we've been having so far, and particularly that conversation we just had regarding the stats. So there's a difference between the Stats SA crime survey, which they call crime stats, and the official crime stats from the police themselves, right? And as you've heard, it's been questioned to the point where it appears, it's been coming across as like that's completely out. So I wonder what you make of all of that, and if so, what you feel about it, how much relevance do you pay to it? But the broader issue around crime remains, whether it's a case of 5 or 10, you just know it's high anyway. Now, what about this, right? We know there's a local government election coming up. We know now that the dates will be between November 2027, like the first week of November, till the end of January. No, let me get that right. November 2026 to the end of January 2027. Within that window period is when we're going to have the local government election. And if you can discount December, which I think is unlikely to happen, then it's either November or it's Jan, right? So we know that already. Now, there's lots of party posturing, I would think, already. News now is that there's been reports that 3 political parties, Rise Mzansi, the Good Party, and Build One South Africa, are set to announce a merger they haven't yet done it, but they're set to announce a merger into a new political party, a centrist party, ahead of that local government election. So it's not confirmed, but it's been reported widespread from numbers of sources. What would happen? Why would it be in the interest of these parties to do just that? What's the good thing about it? What's the bad thing about it? If you look at it from the outside. With me is Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast, who's a political analyst from the Nelson Mandela University. Dr. Breakfast, good to connect with you, as always, on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much for having me. Long time no here.
Yeah, it's been a bit too long. Well, I mean, so first things first. Yeah, the political parties have given us the news for us to talk to you, right? So first things first. How likely is this to happen? I mean, would you understand in terms of your thoughts that it's a done deal?
Let me start by saying, if one examines at close range the ideological framing of all these political parties, it is the same. So by that I'm talking about the political offerings of these political parties. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that if you look at policies, the thinking of these political parties, I mean, they are saying the same things, on matters of policy. And if they stand on their own, by so doing, they would fragment the votes. So I think it does make sense for them to join forces, even though there might be issues of power struggle. But I think if they join forces, speak the same language, I think they will pose a serious threat to the ANC. I understand the ANC has been dealt with the blow in a big way, and it has lost that hegemony. But normally these world parties, when they stand by themselves and not join forces, they tend to be weaker. So I think, I understand the plan is still in the pipeline, but it's quite possible. We cannot rule out that.
And I suppose if you look at the example of the ANC's own tripartite alliance, I know one is not a political party, I'm talking about COSATU, but in essence, it's 3 different groupings that have understood there's a need, they have to work together, and they've contested every single election in South Africa since, right? So what you're saying, therefore, if I can understand you, that even though these 3 parties may have some differences of opinion, there's a lot more that they have in common than not, and it is in their interest that they come across as a stronger front rather than the weaker front, yeah?
No, I mean, Of course, and they stand to do well if they work side by side or if they join forces as opposed to standing by themselves. So I think that will make sense, so long as they address issues of leadership. Sometimes that is also an issue about who's going to be the leader, blah blah blah, and so on. Yeah.
Would you think? I mean, look, we don't know, but would the options be that there are three parties who agreed to contest the election together? That means as three separate parties, or in fact a brand new party?
I think if these parties can join forces, to me that will make sense. And also the beauty of it, and we don't talk about this quite often, that, this is my view, when you have fewer political parties, you're also able to encourage voters, because one of the reasons why some people don't want to vote, in particular young people, is because we have a lot of these political parties. And that, to some people, does create a scope for a confusion, because you don't know who to vote for. So if you reduce the pool, I think that can ignite interest, in particular amongst young people, because young people, in my view, are eligible to vote on a large scale.
I mean, someone said the other day, what have these small parties done? And I gave the example, I said, in a strange way, because they've had strategic positions, I'm looking at Rise Mzansi, including even Boza, right? Strategic positions within parliamentary portfolio committees. They've opened up a shop window to see how they perform. And overall, away from the razzmatazz, if I can call it that, of what happens in the public forum of the National Assembly, in fact, they've come across as very, very competent. I'm talking about the two parties. And then, of course, with Good, you've obviously got a minister who's been a minister for a while. So they've been able to keep their profiles of their leadership pretty high, isn't it?
No, of course. Just to give context, the fact of the matter is the political lifespan or the political longevity of the ANC has been affected by issues of corruption, right? So the brand has been dealt with a blow, and that has created a scope for the ushering in of these political parties, and they've done very well of late in terms of holding the GNU accountable, even at local government level. I mean, Action SA stood out. I mean, I think they did very well, even though I think they were confined to Gauteng and KZN. So, and I think they stand a better chance to do better. And the same goes to other political parties. So I think, to me, it makes sense if they work side by side and just address other issues of leadership.
So just a quick one. We've got about 30 seconds to answer this. When we say better, what would they need to collectively garner in terms of percentage of vote to say, hold it, this has been worthwhile, keeping in mind that some of their voters may also drop away if they've joined another party that they don't particularly like. For example, someone may support Build One SA, but they don't like Patricia de Lille, for example.
Are you talking about a specific, like are you talking about the Action SA?
No, I'm saying if the three collectively as a party,
yes.
Let's call it one party, what would be considered a good number of votes percentage-wise if they were together?
Yeah, putting me on the spot now. I think at least, 50% or 20%. I'm not going to, say things which are not real here. I think that to me will be good.
Well, can they get the 15 and 20? Appreciate your time. We'll have many more chats, I'm sure, about that. Dr. Breakfast, talking about the ANC, not the ANC. I need to erase that before you get freaked out about it. No, the Good Party, Rise Mzansi, and Build One South Africa. Could we see a new, formation or a new actual political party? Nothing confirmed yet. Lots of talk about that. This is the National Pulse. Pulses are racing, aren't they?
SAFM celebrates its 89th birthday this month by giving listeners an exclusive opportunity to attend the prestigious Joy of Jazz taking place at the Sandton Convention Centre from the 26th to the 28th of September 2025. To stand a chance to win these sought-after tickets, simply SMS SAFM 89 followed by your name to 41391 and stay tuned to SAFM as we could be calling you. SAFM is the official media partner for the Dipala stage at the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz. Entries open from the 7th of August and close on the 31st of August 2025. Winners will be randomly selected and called from the 1st of September 2025. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. T's and C's apply. Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, time to hear your thoughts. Here's a question. Do these statistics tell us how many white farmers were killed? I'm asking this question because of those who are saying that there's a white genocide taking place in South Africa from Ramatlati. I mean, really? Well, the answer, no, okay? And why would you want to just have that debate about them when, in fact, there's a whole country that are victims of crime anyway? Here's a comment about the conversation we just had.
Dumela Ndade Ashraf, Nhlanhla Tsolo here, proud great art practitioner from the VAL. I agree that with these three parties, it will be good for them to join forces and rally behind a common view. But I want to disagree with your host, with the previous speaker, to say this may not necessarily fragment the votes of the ANC, but remember, good comes from the DA, and Build One South Africa also comes from the DA. So as a centrist bloc, they may actually weaken the DA more than they would weaken the ANC.
Okay. I have to tell you, I mean, look, it is very premature, but I think you're right. There maybe the point is there are elements within the ANC who would find favour in this new party, and there are elements within the DA that would find favour. I don't think it'll come from the MK party, but you're quite right. I think conversation was to be had around that. The other one is how much would they get? 15%? 20%, as has been suggested? That sounds a lot, man, but you just don't know, right?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners of SAFM. For me, it's not a surprising thing about what happened about the commission of Madlanga, because anything is done by Cyril Ramaphosa is going to west. It's going to left-hand side. Nothing right Ramaphosa is coming with. The suspension of those officials from the Justice Department, Ramaphosa is going to repost them to a certain position. Nothing wrong there. That's how Ramaphosa comes. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Look, let this thing play out as it should. Then we'll have that conversation. Although many people like you are like so clear as to what's going to happen next.
Ashraf, Stats SA must just be closed down. They are getting everything wrong. Employment statistics, they are messing up. People advise them, they don't want to listen. Now they are telling us there are 14,000 murders when police who rely on real body counts reporting over 26,000. So they are really incompetent, and they shouldn't be wasting our tax. They should just be closed down. David here in Centurion.
You really think they're incompetent? Really? Okay. Bumzile in Humansdorp. Let's hear your thoughts on the coalition. Hello.
Yeah, no, good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to the listeners as well. Quickly, in my own view, I don't see them having any impact, because currently, if you check on the percentage each of those political parties obtained in the national elections, and if they come together, the three of them, in fact, they will have, in fact, even less than 3%. So, 3% to me is too much, by the way. And lastly, the caller before me was correct. All these three political parties, and in addition, in fact, by the way, with Action SA, those political parties exist because they did not find actually comfort within the DA because of the racist way they've been treated as black leaders within the DA. So for me, honestly, they won't be having any impact. They must just come and join the ANC, because the mother of all is the ANC.
Yeah, but one
Thank
can't.
you very much.
But Pumsila, you can't be emotional about saying they must just come because that's the mother. I mean, that means like we can just have one political party if that would be the case. I mean, they're entitled to do their own thing. I also don't listen to get 15%. I think that would be massive. I think it would be if they could even dream of getting that much.
Hi, Ashraf. To have many coalitions or a party that are combining like Boza, Razim Zanzi, and Good Party, this would never work. Those parties are voting with the ANC right now in a GNU. Why they don't join ANC once? Or either to join DA? Because we need to have a few parties in South Africa, at the maximum of 3 or 4, so that we can have a pure democratic country here in South Africa against corruption. My name is Les.
So do you think that having more political parties, like say the USA, they've only got 2. I mean, sometimes it's independent, but essentially they got 2. Britain's now got 2, 3. I think there's a new one that's an offshoot of the Labour Party with Jeremy Corbyn that's been formed, and there are many others, right? But do you think that having more parties weakens democracy or strengthens democracy? I wonder. We'll talk about that, by the way, with the IEC coming up just now.
Ashraf, Yalezo here in Mtata. I think the most they can try realistically to get is 10%. I don't think build one SA with Rise Mzansi and Good, unless they can throw in Action SA as well. I don't know, but I think that block can be much more effective and can get many votes. Yeah, I think in the ANC there are elements of people who really don't agree with what is happening now, but don't necessarily want to be associated with the DA. So yeah, they can get something.
Well, I think it's something we've spoken about before, that in the absence of the ANC, and I'm not canvassing that you must not vote for the ANC, no. If people do not wish to vote for them, what is the viable alternative? And they've been looking for that party. Maybe this is the party that these people see as the alternative. Will it work? We'll have to see.
Hi, Ashraf. Great program as always. Yeah, this can only help the country, because the way it is right now, every other political party is corrupt. All we need is one political party that will stand for the truth and like genuinely stand for the truth, and it's game on. It'll change the whole spectrum.
Well, I mean, you may have a point, right? If you develop this anti-corrupt party and you're absolutely firm about that, you could find yourself a space that others have not taken up. Think about that. We'll have more to come. Here's the news at 5 with Greg House.
Thank you, Ashraf. Reaction to Concourt order on Lungu's body, and cat up for auction sparks outrage. Good day to you. The Zambian government's welcomed a constitutional court order refusing the family of the late former President Edgar Lungu to directly appeal the judgment of the High Court in Pretoria. The High Court found that the Zambian government is entitled to repatriate Lungu's remains for the purpose of a state funeral and burial. The Concourt has found that no case has been made for direct appeal. Zambia's Secretary to Cabinet, Patrick Gangwa.
While the government respects the court's decision, it remains committed to working with Dr. Lungu's family to reach an arrangement that takes into consideration the family's wishes and interests, but also takes into account the rights of the government. Our position is unchanged. The late president deserves a dignified funeral in keeping with the stature of his office.
The Justice and Constitutional Development Minister, Mameluku Kubai, says the department's Director General, Dr. Mashabane, will face disciplinary action over the delay of the Matlanga Commission. She's also announced the suspension of the Deputy Director General responsible for ICT, Jabu Hlatshwayo. The action taken against Mashabane and Hlatshwayo comes after the commencement of the commission was postponed indefinitely due to delays in the procurement of vital infrastructure. It was set to start on the 1st of next month. The minister elaborates.
This is because of the failures and lapses on the system, and also not being able to do due diligence and ensuring that the commission starts on time.
Police have opened an inquest docket following the death of a 10-year-old girl outside Louis Trichardt in Limpopo. According to police, the girl was found hanging in her room at her home. Police spokesperson Hlulani Mashaba.
It is alleged that on arrival, the police were shown the lifeless body of the deceased by her stepfather. The deceased was found hanged with a white rope tied from the burglar proof. She was seated on a black plastic chair wearing black and white dress with no visible injuries on her body. No suicide note was found at the crime scene. Police investigations are ongoing to determine circumstances leading to a sudden death.
Meanwhile, a relative of the deceased girl who spoke anonymously says they're waiting for the post-mortem to know the cause of her death.
I am failing to understand why this happened. She was so full of life and we expected a lot from her. She had a bright future. My grandchild was full of life. I am failing to come to terms with her untimely death. Something is not right. The grandchild I know will not kill herself, and she was still young to even think about taking her own life.
A man has appeared briefly in the Mzumbe Magistrates Court in KwaZulu-Natal in connection with the brutal murder of a mother named Twalumi at the weekend. Nothando Gumede was attacked while she was sleeping at home with her siblings. It's alleged the attacker forced open a window and switched off the lights before he stabbed her. The NPA says the murder case has been remanded to the 30th of September for a bail application. Finally, a pet cat that's up for auction in China to pay off its owner's debts has sparked a heated debate on social media. The BBC's Electra Naismith has the story.
The feline, described as fully vaccinated and in good health, had been seized by a court in Yangzhou after its owner failed to pay off a bank loan. Its Taobao listing became the most viewed item, attracting thousands of bids. But many Weibo users were a little uneasy about this very cute cat being sold to the highest bidder. They questioned why cherished pets were being auctioned as assets. The cat has now been removed from sale, the court stressing it had all been perfectly legal.
The top story, the Zambian government has welcomed a Concourt order refusing the family of the late former President Edgar Lungu to directly appeal a judgment of the High Court in Pretoria. That's SAFM News, I'm Greg Khus.
In sports this hour, Orbit College aimed for win against Pirates, Lloyd Harris in US Open second round and Masters invitation for 2026 Investec South African Open champion. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 northbound has a stationary bus reported before Crown Interchange. The M1 northbound in Woodmead, heavy traffic towards Buccleuch Interchange, and Driefontein Road in Edenvale is closed between Baker Road and Serena Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound, a stationary vehicle after Ashburton, and the M7 westbound has truck congestion reported in that Rosberg area, so expect delays. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound slow moving towards the R300 interchange. The N1 outbound has a stationary truck after the N7 Jakes Harville Drive and Hilberson Drive northbound in Parow, slow moving towards the N1 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
It is time to experience spectacular football talent from 19 African nations. East Africa is on full vibration. From Tanzania, Kenya to Uganda, the pitch personnel are hungry for continental glory. This is the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Witness Jan 2024 on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 from 2 to 30 August 2025. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows, and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers, and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, talking about the next election, the ANC's Fikile Mbalula is making the point today that they are steadily regaining lost ground as the ANC. Remember, the clock's against them. They've got a year, effectively, to get it right ahead of the local government election. We'll talk about that at about 5:20, because we've got some, not dates, but months set aside for that. But here's the question, because we've had so many reaction on that potential merger between the Good Party and Build One South Africa, as well as Rise Mzansi. Do you find, how big can they go with them as three parties into one? And do you find that the more parties we have, does that weaken democracy, as some have suggested, or does it strengthen when we have more parties? So do we have more parties that strengthens democracy, or does more parties actually weaken democracy? And the converse may well apply as well. I'd like to get your thoughts, but certainly many people commenting on that, let's call it the tripartite alliance between the ANC, between the DA, let me get that right. The tripartite alliance, I'm using my words in inverted commas here. Rise Mzansi, the Good Party, and the Build One South Africa. I also understand that in the initial conversations, Action SA was part of that conversation. At this point in time, they said they're going to go on it, all of it on their own. None of that is absolutely confirmed, by the way. What is confirmed is that the commission, that's the Madlanga Commission hearings, right? That very important one into issues around state security, etc. That has been postponed. Should have started on the 1st of September. Let's understand what that really means with Naledi Kwali, who's the Executive Director of Defend Our Democracy. Naledi, appreciate you connecting with us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and thank you for having us.
Thank you. So firstly, does this surprise you when, there's a postponement, and I think the reason's been given more about logistics, about getting the act together in terms of infrastructure on the day?
I think more than surprising, Ashraf, it's disappointing. When we think about the climate, the environment, the type of allegations that led to the establishment of the commission, that led to the minister being placed on special leave, what you would expect to see happen is a sense of urgency. You would expect a level of preparedness, and you would expect an understanding of what it takes to put together this commission, as commissions have been put together by the State Department before. So it's concerning, it's disappointing, and it's frustrating, because it also means we're expected to accept the delays that are going to come as a result of this, when we think about the fact that we should essentially be anticipating an interim report, which is now guaranteed to be late.
Are there reasons given at all? Are they convincing? Are they compelling, or is there something to be dismissed?
They're not satisfactory. They're not satisfactory because they speak to this delay. In the press briefing today, the delay were discussed. Inferences were drawn in terms of who's responsible, and it speaks to someone's inability to do what was expected of them when they were expected to do so. And they have such far-reaching implications in terms of the integrity and the level of competence for the department in this regard. So I think they're really not satisfactory, and there needs to be this engagement with how this reflects behind the gaze of the South African public, how the South African public is going to feel about these delays, and the fact that the department itself has been fingered in these allegations, it's really just not satisfactory.
I mean, the part that was given, and I don't have the exact quote with me, is like, it's to do with infrastructure, and part of that is the right sort of cabling, and to ensure that when these hearings are done, and they obviously covered live, and everybody needs to have access to them. So this would compromise that access to information that is also important. But I suppose you'd ask the relevant question. I mean, aren't there people who are effectively put in charge to do just that? And the failing doesn't augur well for a whole lot of other, non-service delivery issues going down the line.
Definitely. And I think what's furthermore frustrating is that it's meant to kick off, it's meant to start on the 1st of September, and we're being told on the 25th of September that we simply, we can't make it happen. And if monitoring has been done on the process since inception, what you would have expected to see was sort of a preemptive response to say, you know what, we don't have these things in place before a week before it's meant to start. So, I mean, it is frustrating. And once again, the press briefing alluded to the fact that there were people who were made responsible for ensuring that certain things are in place, and that they were unable to do so, and they're proceeding with disciplinary action. But overall, I think it reflects poorly on the department's ability to sort of put together this commission in a way that is expected and in a way that inspires confidence.
Okay, I know you touched on it in your opening lines, but let's just go back to that. What are the implications of the postponement? Because there's no clear date now for when it will actually start, right? What are the implications of that? Number one, in terms of actual, conclusions, as you said, and reports. But the other is, what are the implications of that in terms of how we as the public will perceive it, and therefore perceive the entire institution of what it means to have these hearings?
I think the most frustrating of these implications is, firstly, the president had said that there are recommendations that need to be made with regards to employment status, with regards to the way forward. And there has been a resounding call from South Africans to say certain people need to go. So what this means is that we have to wait. I want to say at minimum an extra month added to the timelines that were originally communicated for that interim report. We need that interim report. Those allegations that were made were jarring. They force South Africans to really engage with which institutions we can trust and which ones we can't. And now we still remain in that limbo, which exacerbates frustration, it exacerbates levels of mistrust. And it also means we wait longer. There's more time that needs to be invested in monitoring. There's still going to be the push towards implementing these recommendations. So it feels a lot like kicking the can down the road. But what is ultimately frustrating is that this was an opportunity for the institution to instill confidence, to instill sort of some prowess that speaks to competence, and they've been unable to do that. What they've done is essentially created a longer time for delivery, and that is extremely frustrating, considering the institutions implicated, considering how urgently and how openly people need to be able to access these institutions without even preliminary discussions around what's been found and established so far. It creates room for questions, it creates room for mistrust, and it also leads to speculation as to why are there these delays, which further puts the institutions into disrepute.
Okay, so just the last thing, is there anything else therefore? I mean, that famous phrase, we're looking for a sign. Is there a further sign you'd be looking out for? Because, I mean, ultimately it is about the credibility of the institution that then sets up the hearings, right?
Yes. So now what we're going to actually look for is the ability to investigate thoroughly and competently. We are going to look out and ensure that there is no interference with regards to this process. There are no attempts at sabotage. There are no attempts at undermining the process. There is no undue influence from this point going forward. So we expect to see a sense of urgency. We expect to see a commitment to uncovering the truth and to bringing South Africans into confidence in terms of what's been discovered. So you're starting off on the wrong foot. Hopefully you're cognizant of the fact that there are no more missteps, there are no more delays, there are no more excuses with regards to why we are not able to bring South Africa into confidence in terms of the validity of the allegations made by the KZN Commission.
No more excuses, says Naledi Kowali from the Executive Director of Defend Our Democracy. I appreciate you sharing your insights here on the National Pulse.
Hey there! Need to know your TV license balance but don't want to wait? No sweat! Just send a quick SMS with your ID or TV license number to 44210. Remember, standard SMS rates apply. And presto, your balance pops right up anytime, anywhere. It's as easy as pie. So why procrastinate? Give it a try and get your info in a flash. T's and C's apply.
Get ready, South Africa! 12,000 athletes from every corner of the country will hit the ground running in the 5th edition of the Hollywood Bets Durban 10 Kilometer. A thrilling road race starting and finishing at Hollywood Bets Kingsmead Stadium. It's more than a race. It's all about community, good vibes, and rising to the challenge. Catch the action live on Saturday, 30th of August at 7 a.m. on SABC2, SABC Plus, and across SABC radio stations. Hashtag Let's Run and feel the energy. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
And, linked to that whole conversation, the confirmation the Justice DG advocate, Dr. Mashabane, been suspended over the delays in the Madlanga Commission. I mean, is that a reason? Just think about it, to suspend someone. Just something to consider. I wonder whether you would agree with that or not, right? More to come, and we'll certainly take your calls as we do normally as we wrap up the show from around 5:45 up to the top of the hour at 6 o'clock. But there's also other news around the local government elections. We must talk about that. And the IEC's state of readiness in the build-up to that very important local government election. One of them is a significant date that's been announced, or dates more or less has been bracketed. Let's find out more about it with Mawetu Moseri, who is the Deputy Chief Electoral Officer of the Electoral Commission. Appreciate you connecting with us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and to your listeners. Thank you for the opportunity of being with you.
Thank you. I suppose it's just no pause for you. It's like you have election season, then you pause for like a quick break, and then it starts all over again. And now there's a countdown to that local government election. So let's start with the first thing. I understand you've given us now a window. We know it's supposed to be next year, 2026. You've given us a window in terms of not the date, but the time or the months that it may well be held. Tell me about that first.
Well, that's true, Ashraf. Basically, we've brought to the attention of South Africans that we have a constitutional framework that directs us and the timing of these regular elections. And it gives us a 5-year term of those elected in office. So the current local government councillors were elected on 1 November 2021. That 5-year term ends on 1 November 2026. The same constitution gives us 90 days from the end of term to hold an election, which then puts us at 2 November to about the 30th of January 2027 to hold this election. So in terms of our own planning as the Commission, we obviously have to plan to be ready on the 2nd of November when the 90-day window opens. And it's up to then the Minister of Culture to proclaim the date, and whatever date he then proclaims in that period, we should be ready as the Electoral Commission. But obviously, you go somewhere around the 15th of December, and you disappear from us until mid-January. And we are hoping that the minister will not choose those difficult summer holiday dates of South Africa, Ashraf.
Yeah, well, I think you're quite, and I said so already before, you're absolutely spot on. So you've got this short window of November, maybe the first week of December, not even the second week, really speaking. And then you got mid-January onwards, not even before that, because of this complete shutdown for the holiday period, right? So that's the one thing, but you will prepare for 2nd of November as the earliest day. Then I also note that you've, from the IEC point of view, you've made the point about the amounts of new parties that have been formed since the last election, and the numbers of parties that have been formed in the last month alone. And the numbers are quite amazing. Tell us about it.
Oh, yes. We also just shared with South Africans the fact that we've had about 34 new political parties that we've registered since the last election. And in the last 2-3 months, we have a total of 16 political parties that we registered. So in a way, we get almost every month 4 to 6, 8 parties that apply for registration. There are those that we reject, plus minus 6 more. That we reject on a monthly basis, and sometimes they go away, come back and resubmit their applications. But it's an ongoing process, and our register of political parties keeps on increasing. It does give us an indication to make an assumption in our planning that we may have more contestants in the coming local government elections than we had in 2021 or we had in 2024. Mostly because the 2021 election was during a pandemic, but we still had a lot of political contestants during that election. If you look at candidates, Ashraf, we had just about 90,000 candidates for that election contesting the 10,000 odd seats in local government.
You know, I suppose it's not for you to decide whether a party is worthy of contesting an election, but there's not a day that goes by without someone calling in on this talk show. It's like too many parties, it's absolutely a joke. They are driven by personal motivations, and in fact, too many parties undermines democracy as opposed to enhances it. Do you have a position on that, even if it's personal?
No, well, a personal position is a different one, but we have a constitutional provision, Ashraf. Basically, 1D of our constitution talks about an inclusive multi-party system of government, and 19 on political rights on our constitution talks about freedom of association or not to associate. In an environment like that, given the context of where we came from, where political office was exclusive, limited participation, it makes sense that the writers of our constitution opened up this space of contest so that no one must feel that they have been closed off from participation. So it's an inclusive electoral democracy space. Let everyone who wishes to contest. And if they don't make it, they don't make it. And that's the way we interpret it and implement it as the Electoral Commission.
All right, understandably so. Now, what about other numbers that you've got? I mean, some of the stats you've put out today, including, voters, male versus female, and there could be other stats too. Anything else you'd like to share with us?
Well, first we share some numbers about our civic education programs throughout the country, the amount of work that our teams in the various municipalities are doing to go out and find young voters and encourage them to participate. We've shared also a bit of numbers on our a by-election management process. The fact that in a year we are managing over 100 by-elections where we replace ward councillors who've vacated office for various reasons. And on top of that, we have the PR seats in local government. People are vacating those seats and we have to replace them. When it's a by-election, it encourages citizen participation to re-elect a councillor. What is encouraging with the experience of by-elections, Ashraf, is the 41% participation, which we hope with bigger and larger campaigns of various political contestants when it's a general election, may push local government participation above a 50% mark, which is our wish. We compared to 2021, where we were at 48%. Obviously, it was a pandemic election, hence the low voter turnout. but we are always striving for a higher voter turnout, Ashraf.
And I mean, I think the point noted about, was it 57% of the actual voters? I mean, the turnout was low, but 57% of them were women. That means more women were voting than males, but the numbers of them being elected to parliament was less, which may not. I mean, that's an observation from your side. I mean, maybe comment on that, and including your thoughts on the youth participation as a percentage.
Yes, when we look at men and women, it is an upside down outcome of the process, in the sense that there are still more women registered as voters on the voters roll. 55% are women. But also in voter turnout, the 16 million that came to vote, 57% were still women. However, when you look at those elected in office, we've had a downward trend of the last election, where in the previous election we had 46 women elected into parliament. We now have gone down to about 43%. So that says a lot about our electorate. It says a lot about our political parties in the way they nominate female candidates to stand for office. Okay. And another, just by the way, issue, Ashraf, on this is women in local government are mostly elected from proportional representation seats rather than the ward seats, which is another area of interest that we look at as the commission.
Okay, there's a question from a listener. Let's play that question first.
Hi Ashraf, afternoon. Can you find out that Dudula has registered as party so that it can contest for the next year local election? Please find out, Ashraf.
Okay, and the question, Dudula, Operation Dudula, they registered as a political party?
I have not seen their registration as yet, Ashraf, but we have shared on our website the list of 34. They are not there, and maybe they are in the pipeline, because there are quite a few that are under consideration. As we speak, we've not finalized the decision at the Chief Electoral Officer whether we are registering those parties or not.
Okay, so the question is simply yes, are they registered, or no, they're not? The answer is no. Whether that happens in the future is another question indeed. Well, much appreciate your time, and the countdown to that election begins now.
Certainly, the countdown is on. We already are talking about 14 months to go if it's an early election in November. And let's get ready, let's participate and be there as South Africans. Thank you, Ashraf.
Okay, there we are. That's Mawethu Moseri, the Deputy Chief Electoral Officer. That's part of the Electoral Commission, of course, right? Well, what do you make of that? Get ready for it. November, December, January at the end of this year. Next year, November, December, Jan, one of those 3 months would be your local government election. Here's the news headlines with Greg Host.
In the headlines, the Minister of Electricity and Energy has expressed strong confidence that the new integrated resource plan will be approved. The Justice Minister has criticised the Matlanga Commission statement, communicating a delay in proceedings as unfair. And the Zambian government has welcomed a Concord order refusing the family of the late former President Edgar Lungu to directly appeal a High Court ruling. That's SAFM News. I'll be back with a full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in Diepkloof, queuing towards Rancho Road exit. The N3 northbound in Edenvale, queuing on the off-ramp to Modderfontein Road. 12th Avenue in Pretoria, slow moving at River Bridge, and Allendale Road in Midrand has a crash at Harry Galoon Drive. In KZN, the N2 southbound, a vehicle fire incident reported before the M1 Higginson Highway exit. All lanes are open. Umgeni Road westbound is slow moving through Springfield Park, and Chris Hani Road westbound queuing at the N2 highway. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound slow moving towards Racecourse Road exit, the N2 outbound is slow moving towards the R300 interchange, and the N7 Jakes Hadville Drive southbound has heavy traffic reported towards the N2 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
I tell you what, whereas rugby supporters will turn their minds to the weekend, for football supporters, it's tonight. It's the league games once again, right?
Yeah, and Orlando Pirates are going to host Orbit College at Orlando Stadium in what will be their first ever meeting tonight. The Sea Robbers have injury worries, especially in the defense, where Captain Nkosinathi Sibisi, Olisanda, Tabiso Sisane, Tabiso Libito, and Diano van Rooyen not fit, while Mswenko Boys will be without Pirates on loan winger Munapule Saleng, who is prohibited from facing his parent club. Other loanees, it is Tuso Muleleki and Yanga Madiba, who are also ineligible to take part in this match tonight. Kickoff is at 7:30. Other fixtures to look forward to is Tiers Galaxy taking on Suwelele. Marumo Gallants are away to Stellenbosch, and Polokwane City is playing host to Durban City. Then Kaizer Chiefs have announced the signing of former Mamelodi Sundowns defender Lebogang Maboe. Now, Maboe spent the latter part of the 2024-25 season on loan at SuperSport United. The 30-year-old, who was part of the Chiefs Youth Development Academy, marks the club's 10th signing. Elsewhere, Real Betis are still pushing to do a deal for Manchester United forward Anthony. The clubs are in contact, but up until now, Betis have been unable to match United's preference. United do not want to do another straight loan. They want a permanent element attached to any deal for the 25-year-old. Atletico Madrid, Bayer Leverkusen and Bayern Munich have also monitored the Brazil international situation. Then in athletics, the 2025 season draws to a close with wildcards to next month's World Champs in Tokyo still up for grabs at Diamond League Zurich tomorrow. And Thursday, Noah Lyles and Tebogo Litsile renew their rivalry in the men's 200 meter, while 6 South African athletes have made the grade, booking their places in the final. 3 of the country's fastest men, Akani Simbini, Sean Maswangaye, and junior sensation Bayanda Walaza, will line up in the men's 100 meter sprint. Then just looking at the women's 800 meter, Prudence Khodiso is going to be there, and then also Zane van der Walt faces off the likes of Femke Bol and other top contenders in the women's 400 meter hurdles. Remember, the World Athletics Champs will take place in Tokyo from the 13th to the 21st of September. In motorsport, Sergio Perez and Valtteri Bottas will be back on the Formula One starting grid next season. This is after Cadillac announced the signing of the experienced race winners as the team's debut driving pair. Now, the pair have undisclosed multi-year deals. Cadillac, who will use Ferrari power units until 2029, when General Motors hopes to have its own, face a steep learning curve as the 11th team at the start of the new engine era. Then in golf, the Sunshine Tour has announced that the winner of the 2026 Investec South African Open will receive an invitation to the 2026 Masters Tournament and a place in one of the most iconic stages in the game. Further to this, the RNA has also stated its intention to retain the 2026 Investec South African Open as part of the Open qualifying series for the 154th Open at Royal Birkdale. The National Open will now be the direct pathway into 2 of the most iconic majors in the game for the Sunshine Tour members. On that note, it is a wrap from my side. I'll be back again tomorrow.
Okay, looking forward to sort of reflecting on all those results that come through tonight. And it has such an impact on how people feel at night and in the morning, doesn't it? Yeah.
Bafana Bafana will host Nigeria in a FIFA 2026 World Cup qualifier at the Toyota Stadium on Tuesday, 9 September at 6 p.m. Tickets are now available nationwide and online from 70 Rand for adults and 40 Rand for children at all Ticket Pro outlets, including Spar, Postnet, and all petrol stations. Get your tickets early to avoid disappointment. Come in Bafana Bafana supporter gear, ready to sing for a win. Gates will open at 3 p.m. If you are not in Bloemfontein, catch the game on SABC2 For more information, visit safa.net and at Bafana Bafana on all social media channels. Mzansi Africa and the green and white of Nigeria have a massive rivalry in search of victory. Bafana Bafana tackles the Super Eagles. The South clashes with the West. This is the FIFA World Cup African qualifier. South Africa versus Nigeria on Tuesday, 9 September at 5:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC2. Also available on SABC radio stations at 6 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
And those facts and figures come with the SAFM Market Update, hosted as always by Jimmy Moyaha. Jimmy, good to connect with you. You have a SASSA story to set the scene.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. Yes, we have some big developments coming out of the Grants Agency of South Africa. They are going to be making some changes come the 1st of September, and we're going to be bringing you those changes. We're going to be speaking directly to the SASSA spokesperson around that to get a sense of what is coming. Just to give you an idea around that, they are looking to finally introduce those biometric verifications that they wanted to do at the start of the financial year that they haven't been able to do. But also we know that come the end of September, the master services agreement that they had with the Post Bank for the disbursement of grants comes to an end, and it seems as though from SASSA's perspective they are not looking to renew that. So we're going to speak to them and get a sense of what is happening there and why those decisions are being taken and how these decisions are going to affect grant recipients, most importantly. Then we've also got a conversation taking a look at the city of Cape Town potentially weighing up a decision to sell the Cape Town International Convention Centre. They currently own about 72% of the CTICC. We're going to take a look at why they are considering selling that stake and what that could potentially mean. Then we've got a conversation with Denka Capital around the SWIFT payment system. We know that we're in the middle of negotiations with the United States and trying to get our tariffs reduced. But part of what we are looking at here from a banking perspective is if we are unable to reach an agreement and we are starting to have conversations around sanctions that have been floated around in the past, that could potentially mean that we lose access to the global SWIFT payment system. And we're going to take a look at the implications of that from a banking and a financial sector perspective with the team at Denka Capital. And then because it's Tuesday, we've got an agri feature. We're going to be taking a look at the impact of livestock theft on the agri sector. We've got the privilege of speaking to Chief Economist at Agbiz, Wandile Sihlobo, around that and getting a sense of how we could potentially mitigate that. Before we get to those conversations, markets have had not the best of days, depending on which markets you are looking at. Of course, if we look at local markets, the financial stocks are down about 1.2%, industrials down about 0.8%, resources up about 0.5%, but the all share down 0.5%, and the top 40 down almost 2/3%. We're going to be looking at that a little later on. The rand against the dollar at the moment, 17 rand 61 against the British pound, 23.74. 1 euro would set you back 20 rand and 53 cents, and 1 Australian dollar would cost you 11 rand and 44 cents. If you are interested in purchasing a Bitcoin in dollar terms, it would be just under 110,000 US dollars, 109,800 odd US dollars. With the movement in the rand price, that now brings it below 2 million rand, almost below 1.9 million, 1.9 million, so 1.933 at the moment, 1,933,000 odd rands for a single Bitcoin. And a quick look at other markets before we go. It seems it was a bearish day across the board. International markets were in the red. European markets and Asian markets were not spared. All of them were in the red. Biggest loser in Asian markets was the Nikkei, down almost a full percent. The CAC 40 in France was the biggest loser in European markets, down 1.4%, and US markets at the moment are trading slightly towards the green in the case of the S&P and the Nasdaq. The Dow is down marginally so, but of course US markets are going to trade into the evening, so we'll keep an eye on those. And if we look at commodities before we go, the Brent crude price still $68.15 a barrel, just below the $70 a barrel level. Platinum and palladium still firm, 1,343 in the case of platinum, 1,103 in the case of palladium. The gold price $3,383 a fine ounce. I have Chantal Marks from FNB Wealth and Investments joining me on markets a little later on. I want to get a sense of her thoughts around some of the market movements. We also held a bond auction from a South African perspective. I want to take a look at that and what it says around the attractiveness of the bonds that we are currently issuing in the market. But these conversations will come up after the 6 p.m. news. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
Right, perfect. Thanks. You enjoy your evening and enjoy your show as well, which comes up in about 15 minutes' time or so. Thanks for that, Jimmy Muyaha. Right, time now for me to talk to you because you're on the pulse.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
So, Brian Mabaya from Project Lansing. Ashraf, remember the moonshot political theory? Okay, we'll get to that. And effectively, I've just lost it, saying it does not work. And another one, Mr. Garda, no, just call me Ashraf, man. The suspension of the DG is warranted, given the serious nature of the offence and delaying the commission. Witnesses like the General Mkonazi was scheduled to appear in September from KK in Alberton. And there's more, right? And here's another, and the 10 million is going to a tender person to pay the cost, or is the municipality paying them directly? This goes back to the whole issue about Moses Mabhida, which was, lots of speculation as opposed to facts, just so that we know that. Right, let's pick out some of your voice notes. And the issue of the commission comes up.
Hi, Ashraf. Regarding the commission into the police corruption, it sounds like you and the other lady were talking about the problem with the so-called infrastructure are the television cords. It sounds like they don't have any, or they run out, or nobody knows how to install them, or something like that. And there's still a week to go. Surely someone could figure that out in 1 week. I don't know. I've got a lot of television cords that they could come and get, old ones that we don't use.
Okay, just send us your details. We'll try and get to you as soon as possible so we can start as per schedule 1st of September. Get your point.
I think with me, Ashraf, is that the increase in number of political parties participating in the elections does not bring with it an increased pool of voters. They don't seem to go and get new voters. That's a problem. That's my problem with increasing number of parties, because it does not result in the overwhelming increase in the number of voters. All they do is just to get people that are already committed to other things. I think that one is a weakness in the electoral system. Thank you.
Well, thank you. So here's the challenge. Is there a political party that if they join in for they are formed, they will bring in those silent voters, those non-voters, and they'll get them to vote. They'll convince them to be able to vote. Is there that sort of formation that would do that? Would you be part of it? Are you voting already anyway?
Good day, Ashraf. Ashraf, with regard to the embarrassment, there's a disappointment coming on the Mandlandla commission coming from this lady, your guest that you spoke to just now. I think as South Africans, patient people, we want things to be done properly and well. This is just a slight hiccup, and it will be overcome, and things will run out smoothly. because she will be the first one to complain if things are done haphazardly and is too quick and too fast without due consideration. Ruth from Randburg.
Thank you, Ruth. As per Ruth's story, I mean, does Ruth have a point to say, come on, are we making a fuss over nothing? If things are taking a delay, and yes, we're trying to battle to get the TV wires connected, rather delay than actually start and then say, sorry, we can't give you coverage because we don't have the wires. That would be a problem.
I am not surprised that this commission that is supposed to investigate criminals or criminality that has infiltrated our police or justice system is postponed. I'm not surprised. Ramaphosa and his comrades, they were up in arms saying this American dialogue will continue regardless whoever withdraws. I want to see what are they going to say in relation to this one? Nothing. They're going to say nothing because this one, it will touch them and it will touch their pocket. That's how corrupt they are.
Okay, there's another there. Let's get to some of the callers now. Vallab in a moment, but first up, let's get to Crispin. Crispin, hi.
Ashraf, my focus, I think, is on the complete lack of integrity in leadership at the national level. And this is widespread. It's not only in one party, by the way. It's really across the board. So, I mean, I'm taking the example of the police commissioner, National Police Commissioner Masemola, and a statement he made. So we've got situations for years now. Taxi operators have been imposing their will on whoever, and they keep stepping this up. So, for example, we get this demand that people simply comply with the rules. These are not laws. These are rules that they decide to impose on people about who can and who cannot drive into an area. They fine people. They in some cases have assaulted and recently killed people. And there is a complete lack of clarity from the top that the police will act on that. We have the case recently of taxi operators insisting that people may not have more than one passenger in a car and imposing that as a rule. Then we've got these people at the hospitals, the vigilante groups who decide that they will only let in the people whose faces they like because there's no rationale to it. It's South Africans who don't have IDs or whoever they don't like, people whose names they don't like, especially black people's names. So what does Masemola said? He said he doesn't have a unit to deal with Operation Dudula. That's rather like saying we don't handle theft of laptops because we don't have a laptop unit.
Okay.
How about seeing SAPS in a very innovative way as basically an anti-crime force?
Okay,
where we
hear
see
you.
crime, we deal with it.
But can you imagine if SAPS himself are understaffed? How would they do that? How are they actually going to really manage all of that? Crispin, you raise important issues. Thank you for that. Vallab in Randburg, go for it. What's your point?
Yes, so, we've got from my back of the cigarette box calculation, probably about 25 million voters who are either not registered or didn't vote. Now, there is no campaign. Well, there certainly isn't one from the IEC. But I would think that the party in leadership at the moment, it will be against the interest to recruit these voters. Because collectively, those people will form at least 3 times more than what they received in that. But I'm just shocked at other political parties who are not going out and canvassing for these voters to go and register. Because I think that it is in their interest. But you know what? In the interest of democracy, I think it behoves the fact that as a radio station, you people have a moral responsibility to ensure that you people keep sending out this message that, and most of these people who haven't registered are between the age of 18 and 35.
Okay, Vallab, I'm going to leave it there because time's against us. I have to tell you, every time during election time, your point about what is the IEC doing about it, they have massive voter registration programs across the length and breadth of the country. They don't have to do it now because there's no election now, right? They do it, and then the parties do it themselves, but the IEC specifically around voter education and making that That's happening every single election. Ultimately, maybe the decision is going to be in the family home. How are you able to convince your own children to say, come on, go out there and vote? Thanks for that call, Valab. I'll take some WhatsApp comments after this.
This week on FC Meets, Tisetso and Bandile sit down with Mamelodi Sundowns ladies dribbling wizard Lehlohonolo Mashego. Find out about her rise to the top of women's football on the African continent and what motivates her to aim even higher. Tune in to SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 this Saturday, 30 August at 6 p.m. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. FC Meets, football made for community by community. Rechencha Game, proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The boardroom heat is on and the pressure is rising. The Insurance Apprentice, hosted by the one and only Babi Moloi, is delivering drama, tough decisions, and big personalities every week. Expect bold moves, emotional twists, and contestants you'll either root for or roast. And yes, you'll be surprised what you learn about insurance along the way. Open up to the Insurance Apprentice, Thursdays at 7 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
This Women's Month, SAFM stands with the women shaping South Africa's future. Under the theme, Building Resilient Economies for All, we honor the pioneers, the problem solvers, and the everyday heroes driving change. Stay tuned as SAFM brings you powerful stories and meaningful conversations that move us. SAFM, celebrating women, celebrating progress. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. You're listening to the National Pulse.
So many comments about, the mergers of those political parties we refer to, or the rumoured mergers. Action SA, no, not Action SA. In fact, Rise Mzansi, Build One South Africa, and the Good Party.
Afternoon, Ashraf, Z from the Free State. I think this merger of the three political parties is not going to amount to anything whatsoever. The Good Party is almost dead. It would have not survived the next elections because the Patriotic Alliance is giving them a run for their money in terms of the colored votes. As for Bosa and this other party, they are actually targeting the middle class. So I don't see the three of them joined together getting anything close to 5%, as a matter of fact. Thank you.
Okay, you don't think they'll get 5%, which may be similar to what they got in the last election, like 3%, 111 or thereabouts. But some people have said 15, 20%.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Matabuche. Ashraf, I think the merger of some small political parties to become one political party will help a great deal. I've just raised before the National Dialogue Convention could take place that the debate in that convention or in the dialogue should be about the reduction of political parties in the country, because they're costing the country a lot of money through our tax. And the unfortunate thing is that even if the merger takes place, these leaders will be fighting for positions, and that is another thing that will delay the whole process. Thank you, Ashraf.
Okay, got that. Well, thanks for that analysis. And there's going to be there's already so much analysis about those three parties. What about Delil?
Ashraf, good afternoon, man. Flores from the beautiful Western Cape. My only problem with this tri-party coalition is Patricia de Lille. When it comes to politics, she's not politically stable. And what I mean by that is if she does not get it her way, she walks. And then she goes for her own party. So, yeah, she hasn't proven me otherwise. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Okay, well, there you are. It's a problem with her. It's a problem with 1/3 of the three parties. In fact, who would you choose if you have just those three choices, the three current incumbent leaders of those three political parties? You have to choose one. It's hypothetical, I know. Who would you choose as the leader of the party?
Good day, Ashraf. Yeah, just want to comment on the measure of those three parties. They realized that they did lie to the voters. They did lie. That's why they want to merge. Now it's up to the voters whether they want to continue being lied by those political parties. Look now, they cannot hold any party accountable now. They can't even hold any party accountable. I think
I don't know. What do you mean by they can't hold parties accountable?
Ashraf, it is simple here in South Africa to have a development and to stop corruption and the killings and poverty. This is all about to vote for DA. People must stay away from hatred. My name is Les.
Okay, got that. Stay away from hatred. Here's another, which is something we touched on.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I'm Sweden. I think they should also include Action SA as well as PA in that amalgamation, because currently they confuse us when we are voting. For instance, last time I had to split my votes between Rise Mzansi, Action SA as well as BOSA. Only if they could come together into one, they may get a bigger chunk of votes, almost to reach that envisaged 15%. Thank you.
Well, I mean, that means you have to give up something. And would you include the PA party in that? Because some of their views then reflect very, very differently to the views of the parties you've just mentioned.
Hi, Ashraf. Yeah, I've already developed the basis for an idea behind a truth party. I have a whole bunch of ideas of how it would work. And I think we need to change so many different systems in the country. But I have a bunch of other ideas that need to fall into place before that happens. And it's very difficult to get people to help you in this country. Even people that seem good, you ask them for help. And then when they start to see what your ideas are, they become afraid and they pull back and then they don't want to help you. So I don't know. It's all very nice and well to talk about a truth party or parties that can give us a whole bunch of other options, but the problem is finding enough people that are brave enough to do it.
Well, that is there's a psychology around how political parties can get your votes, isn't it? And one has to be able to see how that plays out. In fact, there's one, we can end up with this because it's a Kaiser Chiefs one, but a fascinating link, Chiefs and ANC.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and the listeners of SFM. Ashraf, because of history, Kaiser Chiefs has more fans in South Africa than any other team in South Africa. Same applies to the ANC, meaning that these 40 political parties registered, which will mean that the ANC will have an advantage over other parties because these 40 parties will share with other parties, which means they will remain in power.
Thanks for that, Brian. I don't know if some may say, as you've heard, that in fact those who are not voting, when they do vote, they're likely not to vote for the ANC, so it's not in the ANC's interest to get them to vote, as has been suggested. But listen, that's the show. Couldn't take all the calls, couldn't play all the WhatsApps. I really appreciate them anyway. And if you're up for it, how about you just tweeting some of your thoughts even now after the show? Just tag SFM Radio and tag me, Ashraf Garda. Use that hashtag, The National Pulse, and do listen to the podcast because they've been tweeted out already, but also you find them on our website, safm.co.za. Can we make an appointment to listen tomorrow? You and I will meet up once again as we get a feel of the National Pulse. Right now it's 6 o'clock. Here's Greg Host with the news.
Thank you again, Ashraf. In this news update, Minister speaks on new integrated resource plan and reaction to Concourt order on Lungu's body. Good evening. The Minister of Electricity and Energy, Kgotsentsho Ramokgopa, has expressed strong confidence that the new integrated resource plan will be approved It's a long-term plan designed to map out the country's energy generation mix. The minister elaborates.
We will be approving tomorrow. The subcommittee of cabinet is looking at